Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week's guest is Greg Miller, creator of Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. Buckle up folks, this one was an absolute blast, chock full of laughs, great Hanna-Barbera stories, as well as the early days of Cartoon Network. I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons that help support this podcast. Bill, Brent, Brittany, Eight-Legged Bird, and Jacob. Thank you all so much for your support. It truly means a lot. If you want to become a member of our Patreon channel to help support this podcast and get all of these episodes early and ad-free, follow the link below and sign up today. Now, let's get on to that chat with Greg. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's in My Head podcast. I'm Mr. Julian. Today I'm joined by Greg. Man, Greg, welcome to the show.
Howdy, howdy. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you, man, because what better way to talk about a little robot that needs remembering than Robot Jones, the creator here, Greg, man. So I would love to know, let's get in that metaphorical time machine, go way back in the day. How does this concept go from your brain to a piece of paper to being sold to the network?
Oh, shit. Some classics. Well, it goes way back. So the idea originally was, I was working at Hanna-Barbera and I had an idea. Well, actually, so Cartoon Network, so I was like working at Hanna-Barbera. We were doing like Dexter's and stuff, and I was working on those shows. And Cartoon Network those were like all kind of like the first wave of shorts. And the execs came back, were like, it was before they had opened up the Cartoon Network studios. And the execs came out, were like, hey, we're looking to get some more new cartoons. So like all these guys, like all the storyboard guys that were working on Dexter's and stuff, were like, hey, we want you guys to pitch some show ideas. So I actually had some idea. It was a pirate show called Captain Rug. And so I had done this whole like artwork, and I did like the standees and did all this stuff. And the day comes I'm supposed to pitch the execs, because the execs were in Atlanta back in the day. And so they would come out to LA maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. So anyway, the execs were coming out for the big pitch. So I get into the conference room and I'm setting up on my artwork, and the execs are like, oh, is this show about pirates? And I was like, oh yeah. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we have a list of shows like we don't want to do. Like we don't want to do shows about pirates or cowboys or aliens. And I was like, fuck. And so they're like, but anyway, but you put all this work into it. Why don't you pitch us the idea? So I kind of like half-assedly was like, all right, fine, here. And I was like, pirates and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the good takeaway from that was they were like, hey, we really like you. We like your ideas. Why don't you come up with another idea next time we come out and pitch us that? So I was like, okay. And so it's like a few months later, and I was like, oh, I kind of had this idea based on my teacher from animation school. I had done a film called Robot Baby. And I had this idea of like, oh, what happened if like, because it was just like a really cute little drawing of a robot baby going, I'm Robot Baby. And I was like, what if that robot baby like grew up and was kind of an asshole and was kind of like into punk music? And like, what would happen? Like, what would happen if like that robot baby grew up? So I'm like, oh, that would be kind of a funny idea. So I basically just did I did the exact opposite, where I like for the pirate show, I had done like tons of artwork and I did all this work. I did nothing. I did like one drawing on a piece of paper, and it was like a one scribble of like and it was like a robot kid with like a Batman shirt, and he was kind of like fucking eyes. So like here it is. The show's called Whatever Happened to it was because originally it was Whatever Happened to Robot Baby was the original name of the show. So it's Whatever Happened to Robot Baby. It's about a punk rock robot kid that goes to junior high, and he eventually grows up and like his people suck. He eventually grows up and like kills all of humanity, like Skynet style, because of how much he gets teased so bad in school. And so they're like, oh, that's kind of a funny idea. And so just from that one thing, they bought it, and they were like, okay, we'll option it. So I was like, oh shit, I tricked you with just like one scribbly little drawing and a lot of like song and dance. And so, yeah, it was actually pretty crazy. And so then from there, yeah, I think I was in development with it for about a year or two, but I was really young too. Like I was like 23.
Damn.
When I pitched it. Like I had been, because I started at Hanna-Barbera. I was interning when I was 19. I came out and was like interning. I was really young. And then like I dropped out of school because they offered me a job. I was working, my first job I was at Hanna-Barbera. I was working on Dumb and Dumber, the cartoon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which was crazy. So that was like, they offered me, I was like a character designer on it. And there was like $600 a week. And I was like, wow, I'm rich. I don't need to go to college anymore. I'm making $600 a week. So yeah, so I was like, I was like super young and kind of like, but we were all really young, like all those dudes. Like, cause like when I started up, when I was interning, it was like, Gendy and Craig and all those guys. Some of them, I think a lot of Craig dropped out too. Like a lot of them were going to Cal Arts out here and a lot of them had dropped out because like Hanna-Barbera was like, yeah, come and work and we'll pay you real money. And they were like, okay. So yeah, we were all like in our like early 20s, like early mid 20s. It was crazy. It was a crazy time back then.
Babyface assassins, the entire lot of that Cartoon Network alumni, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just like, I mean, there's so many, yeah, there's a ton of like, it was crazy because it was like a dorm. Because there
Mhm.
was like, when we were in the old Hanna-Barbera building, there was just like one hallway, especially when we were on Dexter's, it was bonkers. Because there was like Cow and Chicken had one hallway, and then like Johnny Bravo was downstairs, and they were kind of different things, but the Dexter's crew, like we were all like stoned and like everyone's office. And there's somebody's like one of the guys like roommates was like our weed dealer, and like once a week he would like walk down the hallway with like his backpack and like go into all the different offices and did deliveries. And then we would be like, all right, we're gonna go out to the park for a little bit. And the whole production would just go and walk there. Yeah, and there was a park that was down the street, it was called Dog Shit Park. And we would all go to Dog Shit Park and smoke weed and come back and maybe take it. And then there's yeah, it was amazing. Or there was also like you could either go to Dog Shit Park, or if you were really ballsy, you could go to the roof of the building by Mr. Hanna's office, and you could like sneak past like his receptionist and like go and like smoke weed on the roof of the building. It was amazing.
Dog shit park. That's a new one,
Yeah.
man. I
Dog
always I
Shit Park
always
was great.
told
Yeah.
with animation folks, man, shit stories, they tend to come out.
Yeah,
And
I
there
know.
we go. Dog shit park. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but why did they call it dog shit park, Greg? I'm assuming nobody picked up their dog shit.
Yeah, it was what because it was over. So Hanna-Barbera was over near where like Universal Studios is. So it's kind of
Mhm.
a urban area. So there was just one little park that's in there, and everyone would just take their dogs walking in this one park, and nobody cleaned up the dog shit. And it was always like horrible too, because you would be like, everyone's high and they try to chill out and like walk down the, and ultimately somebody
And
always
shit on your
stepped in poop.
shoes.
Yeah, and we're like, oh man, fuck.
Damn. That is fan. I'm looking like I've got drugs in my pockets for some reason. I thought okay there. I grabbed something. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still under the weather here, so I'm having to eat these fucking cough drops like they're candy. It's no bueno. But I do this
Oh,
paid for you, ladies and gentlemen. Just kidding. I do this for me. I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking to the people that help shape and mold my childhood. Um,
I'm sorry.
no, you're perfectly fine, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for that cough. Um, Thank you for sharing that story. Andy told me a really cool story. Andy Bialk told me a really cool story
Ah!
when Andy's got some of the coolest stories. All the guys have I had are all the men and women I've had on here have got some really great stories, but I love early day Cartoon Network stories and I love Hanna-Barbera
Mhm.
stories. And one of my favorite ones was Andy was like, yeah, we were all just like really single and we were young. We were into music. We were into just like skateboarding. And he's like, we're all crazy shit, right? So we would be up
Mhm.
wild hours. And I was like, what's the craziest thing you ever did at Cartoon Network? And he was like, respectfully, he was like, we would go down and we would go down to the basement and Hanna-Barbera and we'd put on the Fred Flintstones, the all
Oh
those
yeah.
Hanna-Barbera characters.
Yeah,
And he was
totally.
like, we would just roam the hallways. So what's your favorite late night or after hours Hanna-Barbera Cartoon Network memory?
I mean, there was that. We actually, yeah, I was
Yeah.
like part of that whole crew that did.
Who'd you dress up? Do you remember?
I have kind of have actually like pictures of it too. At one point, like there was
Really?
like Huckleberry Hound head I
Hmm.
had one time, and there was also like the Fred Flintstone, like on the Flintstones, there was like he was part of like the what was it, like the Grand Water Buffaloes or something, like
Yeah,
some club is, but they
the little
had one of
blue
those
hat.
real hats with like the buffalo horns, and we were like
Hmm.
running around. But yeah, there was like I think like me and McCracken. I don't know if Andy was part of that one, but they used to. So there was like two basements at
Hmm.
Hanna-Barbera, and for some reason, I guess like to so that they wouldn't get moldy, they would like rotate out the different like walk around costumes, and they would like put them out, and like, but you could just go down to the basement. They were just like lined up in this big hallway, so you'd like take your pick, like, who would I want to be tonight? And so yeah, it was amazing. It was great. But it's funny you brought up Andy, because I was like Andy Bielk had like
Uh-oh.
posted a picture. No, it's I mean it's kind of bad, but not really. But just going off of the last story I was talking about smoking weed on the roof of the building, Andy had posted a picture one time on like Facebook or something from like on the roof of Hanna-Barbera, like where
Hmm.
we used to smoke weed. And he was like, fond memory, like super like innocently going like fond memories of hanging out at Hanna-Barbera. And then like I in the comments was like, I know what you were doing in that picture. And he was like, what do you mean? I was just enjoying my youth. And I was like, you fucker, you were smoking weed on the roof. That's the only reason you were taking a picture from that place. But
We
like,
got
yeah, I like
all
how,
our weed from Frank from Dog Shit Park. I know
yeah,
where you were
right.
standing at,
Yeah.
Andy.
I was Andy and I were actually like at the end of when we were kicking us out of Hanna-Barbera, It was like me and Andy, and you know Chris Battle?
I've had him on here.
Okay,
Such a
yeah.
cool
So we
dude.
were, yeah, we were all roomies at the very end because Andy and Chris were doing designs because we were all on Dexter's,
Hmm.
and so Andy and Chris were doing designs and I was doing boards. But like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like, yeah, like the three of. Oh, yeah, here's a funny story.
Uh-oh.
Another like amazing Andy Bielk and Chris Battle story, and they'll never tell you this, but it's a hilarious story. So Chris, like Andy and I, like we were kind of like more late birds, so we would like everyone's schedule was pretty like late styles at Hanna-Barbera. So like we would show up maybe like around 11 and then go to lunch and then come back from like a 2 hour lunch and then like maybe start working to 3. But then we'd also like stay like super late. Like everyone would stay late. But Chris Battle was more like regular hours guy. Like he would show up
Mhm.
at 9 and leave at 6. And so he would leave every day. And Andy got in this thing. So above Chris's desk, he had all the model sheets as
Mhm.
reference for like Dexter and Dee Dee and stuff. And when he would leave every day, Andy would go and draw like little boobs and penises on all the characters, and but make it look real, like ink them and make them look really nice, so it looked like they were like officially models. So he would like white out stuff and like make it look like, and like everything like ha ha ha, ha and like just like try to hide them like on all these like model sheets. And then, but then the crazy thing was like, so then the next morning, like we would come in and like Chris had been there since 9, like we're showing up at 11, but he would replace them with with fixed ones. So there wasn't boobs and penises anymore. It was all like the real sheets. And it would happen every day. And nobody talked about it. It was never like said, like we were like, ah, ha, 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 like
Did he know it was
laughing
you
at like,
guys?
I mean, sure he did, but he never said it. He never like mentioned it. It's just like every day new ones were replaced the boobs and penises. So there was like regular model sheets. And then every day he would leave and we're like, draw new ones on there. But and it was just crazy. It was every day, and it was never spoken of. And it was hilarious. It was just like a crazy, like secret war between Andy and Chris. It was so good.
It was the wiener of Groundhog's Day. That's what
Yeah,
it was.
right. But
Man,
yeah,
that's
it was
great.
pretty crazy. Yeah,
Thank you.
HB.
Thank you for
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those stories, man. Did you? So I can't remember who shared it. It might have been. It had to be Andy, Chris, Craig, somebody along. And my shit, it might have even been you. Somebody had shared a photo once they closed down Cartoon Network and like moved everybody to the Warner Brothers building either earlier this year or late last year.
Mhm.
Somebody had posted a picture of like the stairway that you
Oh
guys
yeah.
were like all drawing the pictures. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
The
There's that the yeah the like all the spray paint, like the graffiti
uh-huh.
stare. Yeah.
Did
Oh
did you
yeah.
did you get to put anything up there?
Oh
Did you?
yeah.
What
Oh
did you
yeah.
put up there? Were
You'll
you
know
drawing
my thing.
wieners? Wieners?
No, I wasn't a big wiener drawer. I can't. I'm really bad at drawing wieners, so that's actually the thing.
Really?
Like I'm yeah. I'm every time I do it, I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not like staring at wieners all the time. No, my maybe I am. Um,
That's a t-shirt. I'm not
yeah,
staring at wieners
maybe
all day.
that's it. And on the back, maybe. Um, my one of my things was there's a dragon that's saying work at the very
Yeah.
top of the stairwell. If you go through and like, because I think there's a website where somebody had posted like a 3D like picture of the stairwell, and at the very top there's a dragon that's saying work, and that was one of mine. I did a few things in there, but that was one of the big things I did because there's the I don't know if I a good story about that was so like when they had opened up Cartoon Network, that the new building, oh, the new building, the Cartoon Network building, it was maybe like the first month or so, but they were doing a thing where like, hey, we're gonna do the graffiti stairway. It was like, sanctioned by the people running the studio. So they had a thing where it was like 3 people at a time could go and get 1 can of spray paint, and they gave you like a little like rebreather kind of mask, and
Mhm.
like go in there and you can do a little bit of graffiti. So they had a little selection of paints and stuff. And so everyone had like 5 minutes to go and like, oh, I'm gonna do a little like do my name or something. So most of us like artists being notorious like late nighters, like one night we were there and we were like, wow, I want to go do more graffiti. Like just doing 5 minutes is ridiculous. And so like we went down and like the closet was unlocked where all the paints and stuff were. So we're like, yeah, fuck this shit. So we just went and we're like, like one night and like went. So if you look like at the very top of the stairwell, there's some like crazy like real graffiti where it's like multicolored stuff. And that was like
Mhm.
us like one night just going, just going crazy. And
Fuck the man.
yeah, oh, we were the worst. We were there. So then, like, even beyond that, like there was like a rash of graffiti just like on like doors and walls, like inside the
Mhm.
studio, and people were getting pissed.
Yeah.
And it was just they're like, stop, stop. And like somehow like I got like blamed for it all. even
Checks
though like I
out.
wasn't really doing it, but I was like a very like a vocal supporter of it. I was like, no, like we're drawing cartoons for a living. Like we should be able to draw on everything because that's what's making our money. And they were like, Greg, you better tell your friends to stop fucking drawing. And so the best one was Paul Rudish.
Hmm.
You've seen him, no, Paul Rudish. So there was this like weird, like I don't even know what it was. It was like a big poster, but it was like mounted on a cardboard. It was like this weird little like cat creature that was like looking adorable that someone had bought at a thrift store, and it had like, or they found it at HB and like had brought it with us to Cartoon Network, but it was hanging above a couch. And
Hmm.
so Paul Rudish, like the most amazing like joke, like took the poster down and drew the same poster behind it, and then put the poster back. He's like, "There's some graffiti. When they find out, that's gonna fucking blow their mind." But yeah, no, we were dicks. We were all like 20-year-old dicks, like doing stupid shit. And they hated us. They hated us so much.
Well, it's so cool because it's gonna bring up two questions that I had because I love so whenever I do a podcast, the only time I write something down is, if you guys say something I want to circle back to,
Uh,
or in particular, the 3 episodes that you brought up that you were most proud of or you
mhm.
enjoyed the most. I want to make sure we hit those. But what I love
Oh,
about this podcast is we can go in any direction because I love when I get people on like yourself that just like love stories. They love to talk. They love reminiscing about this stuff because it's great, especially when I'm like this right now.
yeah, right.
And I get to like I get to go like this, and you get to do all of the talking because they are here for you. They're not here for me. But I loved that story, and like I said, it's going to bring up two questions I got. So
Yeah.
one, what was the? Because I know there was a changing of the guard. Essentially, Hanna-Barbera was there. A lot of the veterans were kind of starting to retire out of the industry. You guys were, like I
Mhm.
said, those babyface assassins coming in, and you guys were the next wave. You guys were going to take that ball of animation that they had placed right there, and you're going to take it another 150 yards or however further
Mhm.
you guys were going to take it. What was it like working with that old crowd? And did anybody have any kind of like, hey, man, we shouldn't be disrespecting the building like this with you guys doing the graffiti from that old guard? Does anything stick out?
I mean, it was actually amazing. It was really great being there because like a lot of those, it was just crazy, like seeing older dudes that were like us,
Hmm.
like, and they were really cool. They were really supportive. They were all like, even though we were like young, stupid kids, they were just like, a lot of the older dudes were like really excited that we were there and that we were a new batch of people because, their animation had kind of been in the doldrums for a while.
Hmm.
And
Oh
then like
yeah.
because like when I got into it, it was like, yeah, that's when like Cartoon Network had started doing its like initial shorts program. And
Hmm.
so like when I was there, they were kind of like there was this big thing called like We Are Cartoons was this big push for Hanna-Barbera. And so it was a lot about like, hey, we're trying to like bring back the old like teams of like Tom and Jerry and
Hmm.
Bugs and Daffy. And like this is like we're gonna do our new versions of that. So a lot of it was like really cool to see like older dudes that were like supporting that stuff. And even like having like Mr. Hanna and Mr. Barbera there was really cool. And like
Yeah.
I even like I got to hang out with Mr. Barbera one day, which was crazy. It was like
Hmm.
so I was interning. Oh, and here's a funny, yeah, another Andy Bioch story. Andy and I don't know, do you know Miles Thompson? Have you
I
ever
do. I actually had him on, and then my laptop got stolen. He's one of the 5 episodes that I'll never be able to release because
Oh
the
no.
the laptop
Oh.
was on that one. But yeah, I talked to him. I talked to him pretty regularly. I love his artwork, especially when he does. I don't even know how to describe it. Just go on his page, ladies and gentlemen. Look up Miles Thompson. His artwork is beautiful. The Huckleberry Hound that he does, it's surfing, but he looks like he's been drinking, so he's
Yeah,
got all
right.
booze face. I love whatever that is considered that style. It's just he's got really cool art. But yes, long-winded way of saying, yeah, I've talked to Miles Thompson. Cool
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, he's cool. Oh, actually, yeah, Miles and I were roommates for a while, which was crazy.
Yeah.
But he like Miles and Andy were working on, I think they were working on Two Stupid Dogs at the time. And they were like, hey, intern guy, why don't you come out to lunch with us? And they like took me out to lunch. But then they like we drove up in the hills and we all like got super stoned and we drove back down after lunch. And I like came back from lunch and I'm like, oh, super stoned. And then they're like, hey, intern Greg, today's the day you get to hang out with Mr. Barbera. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, I'm so high. This is the worst. But it was great. So it was just me and Mr. Barbera, like in his office. And he was like pulling out like old Tom and Jerry like storyboards and like old like artwork, like pitch. Like, oh, here's a show called The Jaguars. I think I'm gonna try to like reboot it. It's a bunch of Jaguars that form a rock band. I think I'll make them play some punk music or something. And I was like, yeah, sure, Mr. B. But it was awesome. But it was awesome just to be like, I spent like 2 hours with him. It was
Mhm.
crazy. Like this me and like hearing old stories, and at some point too, like they were also Mr. Hanna and Mr. Barbera were also doing new shorts for the shorts
Hmm.
program. And so like he had they weren't actually doing them, they had like people doing them for him. And it was
Yeah.
amazing. Like the people that were doing, I think it was a Yucky Duck
Yep.
short that they were doing. And it was like me and Mr. Barbera sitting on a couch, and then like the guys came in that were doing the board for him, and they were like guys in their 50s. And it was just funny because there was like they're pitching the thing, and like Mr. Barbera's like turning to me like, what do you think about that joke, kid? And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but it could be. And these 50-year-old guys are like, you fucking kid, don't you say anything bad about it. I was like, but Mr. B asked me what I thought about it. But it was just really cool. It was cool to like be there, and like with all that history, with like having like the old costumes. Like there was like we would record. They had recording facilities at the
Hmm.
studio, so we were recording there. So it was just really cool to be surrounded by all this history and like get our start there. And then when we started the Cartoon Network its own studio, it was just kind of cool to be like, now we're starting fresh, and now like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? It's just like it's up to us now to kind of like do. And it was cool to have that foundation of working at Hanna-Barbera, and now we're like, okay, now it's our turn to like, we're gonna build the studio into
Yeah.
whatever it becomes. It was crazy.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
so dope. Thank you for, like I said, I'm gonna continue to tell you thank you for everything you've done, but also for the for the stories you're sharing. Because, like I said, it's you could watch any behind the scenes document or behind the scenes, excuse me, on any
Yeah.
show, right? But you're not gonna hear the type of shit like dog shit park. You're not gonna hear that. That's what
Right.
the fans really want to hear. They want
Yeah,
to hear
that's the
dog
thing.
shit park. They want to hear you going, he's asking me, not you, you 50-year-old animator. He's
Yeah,
asking me. I'm the intern.
right.
I love especially Mr. B stories. I had Van on, creator of Johnny Bravo, Van
Oh yeah.
particularly, and
Hmm.
he told me the story about Mr. B. He was like they wanted to hire him for Johnny Meets Scooby Doo, or
Uh-huh.
Scooby Doo Meets Johnny. I can't remember how they placed it because Johnny couldn't be a part of Scooby or Scooby couldn't enter. I can't remember how it was going, but there was very fine lines for the Scooby Doo crossover, and
Uh-huh.
he goes, Mr. B was in there, and we had him for like right after lunch, and I guess he had a heavy lunch, and this is towards him retiring and
Mm.
shit like that. But me,
Uh-huh.
as young as I am, I eat a heavy lunch. I get the itis, or I get real sleepy. And
Right.
he was like, they were just pitching it, and Mr. B would go, and then it was just nodding, nodding, nodding. He was like, the last thing he said, he was like, he was watching Shaggy, like right before he nodded out. He's like, you got the walk cycles right. And he went back to sleep or whatever it was. So Van impressed him enough where he got Shaggy's walk cycles correct with the animation he did. So
That's
he was
pretty
pretty
good.
happy. Yeah, but he was like, we thought we could just have him as a consultant on. He's like, because he was around, he helped create Scooby Doo. It was him and Joe and a whole bunch of
Yeah.
the Takamoto and all the guys that helped pull that one together. But he was
Hmm.
like, if you got the guy that was there when it was made, you kind of want to have him involved. And he
Yeah.
goes, we got a bill for Mr. B, and then we found out we couldn't afford Mr. B on that episode.
That's yeah. The
So,
consummate businessman, of course, always. He's not doing that shit for free.
oh no, no, no. I mean, the Joker in the Dark Knight said it best. If you're really good at something, you never do it for free, right?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
might have been the first time I've been able to spin a Dark Knight quote into this podcast. So that's a point. I'm gonna
Wow.
write that
Well,
one
I'm
down.
glad I
That's a
could help
point. Thank
facilitate.
you. Yeah, I'm going to count that as a half a point for you for an assist. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're
Okay.
keeping track at home,
I'll
14
mark.
to 1.5 points.
All right. Mark that on
But
my scorecard. There,
uh, if you're playing bingo, you're playing the wrong game.
yeah.
But so um, with those guys coming in,
Hmm.
the executives, we'll get back to Robot Jones here for just a second.
Hmm.
But with those guys coming in, they not liking because you're not the first person. I think it was Robert Alvarez that had said, don't pitch, or maybe it was Randy or I don't know. Like all of the chats start to bleed, after a while, like everybody I've had.
Right.
So I don't know who said this,
Uh,
but I'm pretty sure it was a lot of people. But they obviously has no pirates, no cowboys.
yeah.
They didn't want that, and then they ended up doing it in Samurai Jack. I think they had a pirate episode, and then I know for sure they had cowboys, because it was a train heist episode.
Yeah.
But did they ever say why no cowboys, no space, or excuse me, no
No.
pirates? Was it anime? Because that's right around the time well, no, even then it's probably a little bit before, but you
No, it
got
was
One
pre.
Piece and
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah, it's pre
98,
that.
99. It was pre that. What
Yeah,
year,
because
what years are
this
you
was
pitching?
probably like 97,
Yeah.
I think. Maybe like 90. Yeah, because what year? It was like 96, 97, I think. or
Okay,
97,
so it's
98.
before or it's during the height of the What a Cartoon. So What a Cartoon and Cartoon Fridays is
Mm-hmm.
going. Um, well,
It
the
might
only
have
reason I
been.
was asking that because I didn't know if it was just that delineation between, like I said, anime was starting to blow up. One Piece 3 years later, 1999, and then I think Cowboy Bebop kind of hit in 98. But I've never really heard an
Yeah.
answer why they didn't like pirates or why they didn't like cowboy movie or cowboy shows.
They just, I mean, like everyone's like executives always just have like weird, like nonsense rules. And I think it was more of
Mhm.
a kind of thing where it's like, we're looking for a new brand of cartoons. And we've already seen like, well, because that was the thing. I remember like them talking about pirates. They're like, Peter Pan had pirates. We've already seen pirates in cartoons. Let's do
Yeah.
something new in cartoons. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think like Peter Pan encapsulated like everything you could do with pirates in a
No,
cartoon.
not at
But
all.
so I mean, like it was like weird things like that. They just had this like weird, like arbitrary, like yeah, like we've already seen pirates, we've seen
Mhm.
cowboys, we've seen spacemen. Let's do something new. And I think it was more just to kind of like prod us to do like I think it's why Robot Jones was such like a hit for them, or at least idea wise, is it was like, oh, we've never seen like a
Yeah.
robot kid like in school. Like that's a totally new idea. So I think that's just what I think they were just kind of more going for like, what's something weird that we've never seen before that can be very uniquely Cartoon Network. Now that's not to say like, yeah, like you said, like later on, like there was like anime stuff or like Samurai Jack things that came in that were like breaking those rules. But I think it's
Hmm.
at that time it was just like I think they had an idea of what flavor shows they were looking to make. And I think just like using that as like a blanket rule, it was kind of
Yeah.
like, I guess, like filter out some of that stuff for them.
Make people think a little bit deeper
Yeah.
about what they were trying to
Bastards.
pitch.
Yeah.
God damn bastards.
Making us
Um,
work.
sons of bitches, man. This is the land of free opportunity and all that other shit, roads
Yeah.
paved with gold. You should be able to sit back and kick your feet up, smoke a
Yeah.
joint from Dog Shit Park, play some N64, come up with some pirate shit. You know what I mean? Pirates are like the hottest thing right now with One Piece. I just got into One Piece earlier
Oh,
this
yeah.
year with my son. The anime, we're on like episode 235 of 1112
Yeah, right. There's a
or some
million of them.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Pirates are in, man. It's a really cool show. Like I said, I just didn't know if that was the correlation, like they had something on the back burner for Toonami. But even then, that's like I said, 3, 4 years after. There is one more show I wanted to touch on before we push a little bit further into post pitching and then the production
Oh,
of
yeah.
Robot Jones hidden. Um, you were very young when you were interning and first starting out at Cartoon Network and Hanna-Barbera. So I have to imagine you had your thumb on the pulse when it came to not only pop culture, but stuff that was really coming out at that time. And one of my favorite shows, and I've gone down and said this so many times, so ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. In my opinion, without Space Ghost Coast to Coast, there's no Cartoon Network. There's no What a Cartoon. There's no Cartoon 2. There's nothing because that was the foundational piece that they needed to go, oh shit, we can do new stuff, even though we're retreading and using animation that's done before, but we're changing and updating it. Um,
Hmm.
it laid it laid that initial foundation for going like, oh, we can do something new. It doesn't have to be a rerun because at that time, Cartoon Network, before What a Cartoon was just nothing but reruns. It was
Hmm.
Johnny Quest. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love half of these characters.
Yeah,
Not half
right.
these
Yeah.
characters.
Like I
I
see
love
Space
all
Ghost
of
right
these
there.
characters. Space
Yeah.
Ghost Coast to Coast, or Space Ghost right there. I've got Frankenstein Jr., which is one of my favorites. That was
Oh,
what I
yeah.
saw on those reruns, right? So I love that style, but like I said, if it wasn't for Space Ghost going like, you can do something new, we can build original content. I don't
Hmm.
think Cartoon Network would have had the longevity that it did, and went as far as it did. What say you though? A guy not only in the industry, a guy that was there watching it when it was happening. What was Space Ghost
Yeah.
Coast to Coast like in your world, if you can remember?
I mean, it was, yeah, because it was really taken off when I was interning, because that was the thing. Well, because that was all more Atlanta, coming from Atlanta, from
Yeah.
that creative things. It was really weird. Like, so Cartoon Network was, all the execs were based in Atlanta, and then
Hmm.
all the artists were out here in LA. And it was like this weird, like two different camps. And Space Ghost was coming from Atlanta, and I think that was like Mike Lazo's
Yep.
baby. And
Yeah.
he it was interesting because I think it was just setting the tone for Cartoon Network. Like
Hmm.
so it wasn't just like, whereas like we were like trying to like come up with new ideas for like new cartoons and stuff. I think just for like an overall flavor of what the network was going to be, as opposed to just being like, like, yeah, like a library of old stuff like some new ideas. It was like, what's its identity? And
Yeah.
and Space Ghost was one of those. That was the thing where I think they kind of figured out like, oh, this is something like weird that we can do,
Hmm.
which is kind of bridging the two ideas. So they really, yeah, they were really pushing it hard. I remember like back when I was actually, I think I still have like, I have the they had like the like swag from it. I have like a towel, like a Space
Yeah.
Ghost Coast to Ghost like beach towel that I use as like a backup like tub towel. But I'm like, oh, it's like so like paper thin, but I'm like, oh, but it's classic animation history.
Oh,
But
that's don't fucking ruin this
yeah,
one, Greg. You
I
ruined
know,
the last
I
J Ward one.
know, I know. It
I
wasn't
don't know
me.
if
I
we're
just saw it happen.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You fucking look like the guy that might have done it. I don't know. You might have
No, it
been
was
that guy.
Mitchell. It was because Chris Mitchell.
God damn it, Chris.
Okay, Critchell. I'll blame it on him. He's gonna be like, "Why the fuck are you fucking throwing me under the bus, dude?" I'm like, seemed
It's
like a
called
funny thing to do.
deflection. It's
Yeah,
called deflection,
yeah,
Chris.
yeah, yeah. You're not here to defend yourself. Ha 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 ha.
Haha, I
Fucker.
won this. Well, you've just scored two more points, so you're still
Oh
down by
yeah.
12 by
Oh
my
man.
math. I failed
All right, let me
math,
try my
but
best. All right.
you're coming back, man. So here
All
we
right.
go. So
Stretch.
whenever I got you, don't want to pull a hammy.
Yeah.
Whenever I have you guys come on, I always try to go back and watch anything you guys done, interviews, or if you guys posted anything. Because the last thing I want to do is retread a lot of the same questions.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we have to do that. Like, oh, you came up with this really, really great show. Tell me about this really, really great show. So we
Right.
obviously we start there, but hopefully it's different this time because it's never fun
Hmm.
answering the same questions. However, I was watching one and I loved the story about how you came up with the voice for Robot Jones. Was it Microsoft 98? You did
Oh
text to
yeah.
voice. How does like I'm so fascinated by like I said, just the aesthetics of your show. In my opinion, like I this is a show that I wish was coming out now because I think I think this is one of those shows that was so far ahead of its time it didn't get the longevity that I think, and it's not this is not me blowing smoke or trying to stroke anybody's ego here. It's just like I
Oh no,
this
please stroke away.
please,
Please,
but
I'm no, stop. No, stop.
but it's like I said, the show aesthetically, it's stunning. Musically,
Oh.
it's stunning. It's just
Oh.
one, like I said, it's one of those shows that, in my opinion, burnt so fucking fast. It was just here and then it was gone. I mean, 2 seasons, definitely not long enough for anything, especially something like this. And just these little things that, like, once you start watching it, like, so you watch a cartoon, oh, it's a cartoon, and then you start analyzing it. Like I've done this more so in the last couple years, just doing the show because you guys will say something. I'm like, oh fuck, I've never thought. Like you guys will get like real technical on how you shot it or how you would do all of these shots that you boarded out. The end and the credit, or excuse me, the cut scenes you
Mhm.
guys would do. Then you guys would pair it with all these things to make it this magical piece of moving properties, right, going across the screen.
Right.
And like I said, it's just this one just felt like out of place in a sense of like, I really wish this would have happened, like I said, 15, 20 years, like right now
Yeah.
instead of early 2000s because I think it would have went longer than it did. You know what I mean? I don't know if you feel the same way, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
think they didn't, I mean, it wasn't like back then it was like they didn't come out and like really say it, but they kind of, no, they actually kind of did. Like it wasn't Powerpuff, it wasn't Dexter's. It was something very different from that. And I
Hmm.
think that didn't know what to do with it. And I think that's what a lot of because even with like, yeah, so like the voice was, I had to change the voice. And it was
Hmm.
like literally Mike Lazo saying, like, I want Hollywood, quit giving me this weird art shit. Like, give me like a kid just speaking it so we can all understand it. And I was like,
What'd that
no,
feel
that was
like? What'd that feel
th-
like?
to get that note. It was a
Yeah.
bummer. It was cool
Yeah.
because well, okay, going back to like what you were saying, like that show was like so much me
Hmm.
because like like I did all the music, like I wrote and performed all the music, like
Really?
Robot. Oh yeah, that's me.
I didn't
Like
know that.
yeah, like I got
God,
like it was like because it was like I was like living at the studio. Like it was like I was like eating and sleeping and breathing Robot Jones. Like it was like I was so excited to get the chance to do the show. And I had just been like, oh, I have all these theories about how to make a cartoon, and I'm just now it's my chance. And it's exploding.
yeah.
So it was like, yeah, it was really cool. Like yeah, I got to do all the music for it. Like my line producer, Janet Diamond, who's an awesome person, she like put it in the budget. Like we went into like a recording studio for 2 weeks and just recorded a ton of music and a bunch of different things. And then like when we were going through and editing it, we just were using like needle drop. We were just like cutting up parts of songs that I had pre-recorded because it was all me. And then like the robot voice was Yeah, like I had found, because that was the original pitch, was like, okay, it's like a speak and spell. Like he talks like a speak and spell. And I wanted it to be like, I'm creating a creature that doesn't exist anywhere except in this
Mhm.
cartoon. And I want him to talk to real kids. And so when you put it together, like you're watching it on the screen, like you're watching like a creature that doesn't exist, but like he's talking to kids because it's like a voice that like because I did all the voice. It was
Yeah.
not, I mean, like it was me programming it. So I found like it was Word 98. It was a very specific, I don't know, and I haven't been able to find it again, but there was something really weird about that version of text to speech on Word 98 where they had all these extra sliders and
Mhm.
controls in it. And so the way I would do it was I would get the script printed out and then I just like run it through and let it play just that way. But then I'd have to sit and like, okay, you could go and select like word by word and like speed it up or slow it down or
Stretch
put
it
a little
out.
bit more and like put some inflection on it. There was like these weird sliders. And then sometimes I would have to spell things phonetically because I wouldn't say it properly.
Mhm.
Or like even like weirdly like if you like capitalize the letter or put like a punctuation somewhere in the middle of things. So there was all these tricks. So it was like I was like one day a week I was like they would like, okay, Greg's got to do robot voice, and I would like lock myself in my office and sit and like be like, all right, I'm like listening and doing it, like I gotta make, oh, trying to make, and it was like sometimes it was a pain in the ass trying to get it to act, but it was like a fun challenge. And then like when it was finally done, like to see it like on screen, I'm like, hey, could it work? Because like now it's a real robot voice talking to kids, and I'm making it like sound like they're actually having a conversation. And it was like a fun challenge for me to do. And then to have like the network be like, no, this is too weird and too like it was like a punch in the gut. It was
It's a
horrible. It
gross
was
misstep.
it was just
It's
like, yeah, they didn't know what to do with it. And I think like I was really excited about, well, here's a fun story about, so when Mike Lazo, like to his credit, like they didn't immediately make me change the voice. Like we aired the first season with the original voice,
Mhm.
and they let me, because but it had already, there was like grumblings during that time too. They were like, wait, this is too weird. I don't know if people are going to be able to understand it, said the executives. And I'm like, no, just trust me. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. And so they let me at least do that. But it had been kind of like going from the beginning, like once they were like, "Ooh, this is a little bit too weird for us. We don't know if we're going to go for it." But so during this transition of like trying to get me to change the voice, like Mike Lazo like came into my office one time and told me the story. He was like, "Well, Greg, like it's it's kind of like Bugs Bunny." So here's a little story about Bugs Bunny. So Bugs Bunny, when Bugs Bunny started out, he was a little bit more like a rabbit. He was kind of hunched over and he sounded a little bit more rabbity. And then the executives did some focus grouping and decided that people wanted to see a rabbit that wasn't so rabbity, and so they made him stand up a little bit taller and talk more like a regular, like a person. And meanwhile, I'm like, that's not, fuck you. Like that was Bugs Bunny changed because like different directors like over the years like just
Mhm.
drew him differently. They weren't doing focus groups to fucking change the thing. So like he had this whole story about like it's focus groups, and like focus groups are what like are what drives cartoons and makes good cartoons. And I'm like, now granted, like I did like being able to go to focus groups and see the kids watch the
Uh-huh.
cartoons and like get their stuff. But it was, but executives would use it for a different reason. And it was kind of like BS. And I was kind of pissed about it. So like, yeah, Mike was really trying hard to be like, come on, Greg, I saw a focus group say this voice is weird. So why don't you change it and make it more normal, make it do a normal
Focus
thing. And I'm
group
like,
almost made Powerpuff Girls not happen.
oh yeah. Oh, well,
You know what I
there was
mean?
a thing like they used to let us go to focus groups, which was
Mhm.
actually kind of cool. But then the thing was they didn't have what the executives would do was like they could take whatever the numbers were from the focus groups and twist them however they wanted to, like make it seem like
Mhm.
if, whatever they wanted to implement. And so like with robot, like I got to go to the focus groups, and then like they would give you this like printed out report like a month or two later about like here's what happened, here's what the kids said about stuff. And I was like reading through the report, like, wait a minute, like the kids didn't say this about that thing. Like they would
Mhm.
like just to prove like, oh, the voice is weird and we think that we should change the voice. So they would like kind of like doctor like the report to make it seem like,
Yeah.
see, Greg, this is what it says. But no, but I was there and the kids didn't say that. So then they were like, well, okay, now artists can't go to focus groups anymore because it's too traumatic for them to like watch the kids like ripping their shows apart. And I'm like, no, it's not traumatic. It's just, it's, you guys don't, you now have the power to be like, well, we had a focus group and the kids said this, and like you weren't there, so you didn't know what the kids said. So So it was kind of a bummer because I liked going to the focus groups because it was like that classic thing where like you're sitting in a room behind a mirror and all the kids have a dial. There was like a Simpsons episode about it, I think, and they're
Yeah.
doing itchy and scratchy, and it's literally that's exactly what happens. Like it's kids sitting there with a dial that says I like it or don't like it, and you're sitting in this like control room and you're watching computer screens and you're watching the kids little like graphs going like happy, sad, like up and down the whole time, and I was like, what? Weird, this is so crazy.
This weed from Dog Shit Park is really
Yeah,
kicking
right.
in, guys.
Yeah.
That's a callback, ladies and
Whoa.
gentlemen. And I want to clarify something because I've brought it up a couple times, and I've actually talked to Craig about this too. Craig will go down and say, and I'm not saying this is you, but
Mhm.
Craig, I just want to make sure on my side, I don't want to use something incorrectly. He said one of the most important things I ever did was go to that focus group, and he said it changed my perception on how people. He's like, they gave me the thing I was missing. Right now, I'm
Mhm.
not saying that the focus group. There might have been some kids out there that didn't like the robot voice. I thought it set everything apart. This
Mhm.
was it when you said it. So I'm going to say it should have been done 20 years later. I'm going to say it should have been done on a different network other than Cartoon Network. You see things on, especially like streaming now that have just blown up, from Netflix to Hulu, anything in between. It's just like these shows will make it and they're everlasting. They'll last longer.
Mhm.
They're automatically open to like if 8 billion people can own Netflix, 8 billion people at one time. You know what I mean? You didn't have to
Right.
be in a specific market. Like when we talked before, I had told you like, fuck, dude, I'm pissed. I can't buy Robot. I can watch it on YouTube. I used to be able to
Right.
watch the
Yeah.
entire series, but it's like you can't get it. And you're like, oh well, you know it's in like fucking Cartoon Network Latin. And I'm like, dude, come
Yeah.
on. Like I want to watch it. So it's even then it's segmented into specific parts of the world. So not
Mhm.
everybody is open and not everybody can see it at once,
Yeah.
but it's like that's what I thought, or that's what I liked a lot about the show. Not only was the voice different, it was cool because it was like, dude, this is like post Y2K. Like I remember being terrified at Y2K. I was in fifth
Right.
grade. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my fucking God. I'm sitting there playing my Game Boy Color. I'm playing Pokemon Blue or Pokemon Yellow. And I'm going like, fuck, am I not going to be able to, like, everybody's worried about their bank accounts. I'm worried about if I'm going to be able to evolve this Haunter into a Gengar before Y2K hits. You
Right.
know what I mean? I'm just like,
Yeah.
fuck, dude, I need to catch them all before the shit goes down and hits the fan. But it was like, that's what set that show apart for me. It's like, it made it different. There's reasons why Samurai Jack, as far as I go, sticks out so much to me because it was so different. Robot Jones,
Mhm.
so different. All of these shows that they were putting on at that time were so different. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. We talked
Mhm.
about Mr. Warburton earlier, fucking Kids Next Door.
Mhm.
Different, the animation style, there were some similarities to other shows, so it's something similar, but it was just
Mhm.
so different from the next one. That's what I loved about Cartoon Network at that time. Look back on this
Mhm.
wall, you could point out a whole bunch of Cartoon Network shows, and not one of them looks the same. You
Yeah.
might go and say Dexter and Powerpuff Girls, but it was like almost the same crew working on it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you guys were
Totally.
inspired by UPA. You guys were inspired by these specific, a lot of the same directors from Warner Brothers, a lot of the same directors from Disney. So it was just everybody was plussing up, everybody was one-upping, and everybody was trying to do something great because you guys all pushed each other.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's why I said it was like a gross misstep. You won't hear me say too many things about Mike Lazo because I think he's one of those guys that's fucking brilliant. He's a genius. He's up there with anybody you could possibly think of that changed cartoon culture for the better
Mhm. Oh yeah.
forever. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just like I really wish like, and it's not like it's a big thing for me. I know it's a big thing for you, I'm sure. But it was just like that voice. It was so unique. It was so cool, and it was so particular to that character and that show. Like I said, it set it apart.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It was, I mean, it was tough. That was the thing. It was just like, cause it was just because I was so, it was my baby and it was
Mhm.
my thing. And it was like, that
Yeah.
was like in my mind, that's what was like, robot is that. And so like then to have to change it, it was just like it just hurt. It was a hard thing to change. And it was just because I didn't agree with it too. Like I was like, I don't think that it's too hard to understand. I don't think that it's all the things that they were bringing up that they didn't like. I didn't agree with it, but I mean, ultimately, they're signing the checks. So that's the thing. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like Lazo was amazing. Like he like super like supported me. Like I got the show because of him and Linda Saminsky. Like were really supportive about it.
I love me some Linda. Such a great lady.
Yeah, she's awesome. they were both like, yeah. So it was like really cool. It was like cool working with them. I mean, I was so young and they were like really cool with like giving me the chance to do that stuff. It just
Mhm.
was like, you know, and when it came down to like artistic, like creative differences, I just was like, again, like being like a young kid, I was just like, no way, man, I know what I want, and I'm digging in my heels because it's my baby, and you don't know what you're talking about. And so it just kind of became one of those like, yeah, like butting heads. But
You know,
oh
it's
yeah.
I'm so glad that this show exists, and I know you are too. I'm so glad that this show exists because I got to imagine when you sold it, what was I always like
Mhm.
these questions or these stories. What
Mhm.
was the first day like after they said, "Hey, we're gonna go Robot Jones. We want this show to go." How long did you party? How long were you up for? I have to imagine you did some fun shit.
Trying to think. I mean, I felt like I was a superstar. It was amazing. Well, because it was
Yeah.
kind of crazy too. Like when they, because it's a weird, like it's a slow process. It's like
Hmm.
weird. Like they were like when they initially said we're gonna start doing it, they do a thing. It was, or at least they used to do it. They would like option your
Hmm.
show. So they're like, okay, we're gonna give you a chunk of money and for a year, and we'll slowly develop it, and then like like Cartoon Network will own this idea, or we'll like have exclusive rights to it for a year. And
Hmm.
then if we want to move forward with it to making a series, then we'll give you a little bit more money, whatever. So, but it was like I was, yeah, I was like 23. And I was just like, oh my God, it's happened. Cause it was like, that was my dream. Cause even like getting into when I was interning at Hanna-Barbera, like I was a summer intern, and then they had asked me to stay, like to continue on. So I actually like took a semester off of school to
Hmm.
like to stay on and like keep interning up until like Christmas. And like right before Christmas break, they're like, "Hey, intern Greg, why don't you pitch a short?" And so I went, "What?" And so I came up with this like really stupid idea, and I went home over Christmas and I drew a storyboard, and then I came back out like after New Year's, and like I pitched the storyboard, and they were like, "This is shit, this is the worst thing." And I was like, "Oh no." So but I was like, but that was my thing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna be like all these other guys, because like Gendy and Craig had all like done their shorts.
Hmm.
And even though like they were just all working on they were working on Two Stupid Dogs, but then like, you know, like Dexter's eventually became a series. And
Hmm.
so it was like to see these guys that were like kind of like my contemporaries like getting their shows. I'm like, oh, I can do it. Like I'm their age, so I can do it too. And so when
Yeah.
it finally happened, I was like, hey, good, now it's my chance. Ah! And so then it was just like, I got so many ideas. And that was just like, it wasn't so much like going out and partying. It was just like, now I got to figure it all out. And so it was just like figuring out like, here's what I'm going to do for the music and for the artwork, and like working with, so I don't know if you know, like my cohort, my partner in crime is Mike Stern,
Hmm.
who is technically the art director for Robot Jones, but he was also like the co-creator. Like he was like, we were like super awesome buds.
Hmm.
And we just were like, yeah, that's when we started like figuring out like, how are we going to do this? Like, what are we going to like? Because I had the idea, like I wanted to look like those old like Schoolhouse Rock, or like those old like
Yes.
70s. Like I wanted to look like, or like The Point is another
Hmm.
like big touchstone for Robot Jones. But it was like I wanted it to look like that stuff, and there was no, like nobody that I knew had done it. So it was like Mike and I had to just like kind of like watch him and figure out like how could we make it look like it's like pen and ink drawings on a background, and maybe if we just wanted to like put certain elements like, in color, like how do we do that? And even like stuff like we had, like Mike had figured out that the backgrounds weren't really even white
Hmm.
sometimes. And for Robot Jones, if you watch it, like a lot of times, like if you don't think about it, you're like, oh, it's just white backgrounds with like line art and stuff above it. But it's like they're subtly different colors. There's like a subtle like yellow, a
Oh, I
subtle
love that
blue.
yellow.
And it's, yeah, so it's like we like we'd have them like we like stick in there because you couldn't just do white because white was too hot. So you had to like kind of like gray it out a little bit. And so like just figuring that kind of stuff out, like how are we going to do it? And like because we figured out this whole system of like all of our backgrounds were on cell as well. And so
Hmm.
sometimes certain elements of the background would be cell paint, but then some things would be actually like painted onto the background. So that you had these different layers of, because Robot Jones, if you didn't know, was one of the last, if not the last
Yep.
show that was still done on
Traditional.
cells and film. And so it was cool to be able to like, work with that stuff. And because the whole idea was like to make drawings come to life and look like these are moving actual drawings. And I wasn't trying to like, because the big thing with like Gendy and Craig and all those guys were really going UPA, and that was really like super clean lines, super hard shapes. And I'm like, no, I wanted to, because I liked like all those 70s things, like even like Disney's Robin Hood. If you
Hmm.
watch Robin Hood, that thing is like every once in a while, like you could see like the
101
Xerox lines
Dalmatians
and
as
like,
well.
yeah, totally. Like all it's
Yeah.
like I love all that stuff. And that was like
Hmm.
I love that there was this texture that came to life and I wanted to capture that like in because all that stuff too was like I mean like that was a feature. And so it's like how can we do that level of like texture and work on a TV scale with a TV budget and a TV uh, uh, schedule. And
Hmm.
it was tough and it was crazy. And like luckily, like even like because we saw all of our actual animation was done overseas in Korea. So we would get all of our stuff like set up here, and then we had to like meet with the Koreans and like walk them through it. And they were at first they were like, "What the fuck is this?" Because it was just so different from everything else. Because it was like Mike and I going like, "Here's our new crazy idea about how to achieve this look," and they were like, "What?" So it was crazy because I actually got to go over to Korea and like check out the studio and like see them working on it, and they were amazing. Like the amount of
Hmm.
work that they did on these shows was because we would send them like for the backgrounds, like we would send them the line art like Xerox on paper and like literally like because back then we had to like literally ship the artwork
Yeah.
like in a box to send it to Korea because there was no like digital sending the shit. So they would take our backgrounds and like retrace them with a dip pen and ink onto another cell because we thought we were like, okay, we're sending them like really good Xeroxes. Let's just have them Xerox that onto their cells over there. But like, no, they were like, no, it would like the ink wouldn't stick or the level of like line art that was on these things like wouldn't work. So we have to like redraw them ourselves onto the backgrounds. And I was like, man, you guys are crazy. But they're amazing. It was amazing to like to see that stuff come back and be like, oh my God, they're doing it. And we're doing like the look we wanted to do. And like it was so fun.
I imagine it's super surreal.
Yeah, it was
Um,
crazy.
I loved I'm so glad you brought up backgrounds because it seems like I always bring up backgrounds for every show. I love backgrounds are my favorite. World building is my absolute favorite. And you brought it up. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the old color yellow, and watching
Uh-huh.
some of these episodes and seeing that yellow, I was like, oh fuck, dude! Like, there's so many like nuances that you forget when you haven't watched something in so long. And
Uh-huh.
it was just so I saw that, and then I loved, especially like crowd shots. I don't know what it's considered, but like and we talked about this before we hit record, but it was like it was so fractured fairy tale esque from Jay Ward,
Yeah,
the
right.
Rocky and the Bullwinkle show. It had that vibe. It had that like if a place can have energy, right? You go to a cemetery, it feels sad. Like you guys were putting off this like frequency, this energy with the backgrounds in there in particular. And like I said, the whole aesthetic fit. And then when you do some research on Cartoon Network, you know that era that you guys came in with, the you and the Craigs and the Robert Zettis and the Gendis, it was like that was like really punk rock. Like you guys were coming in during that grunge era and you were
Yeah, right.
taking over for like Sinatra, right? It was like it went from
Right. Yeah,
Sinatra
totally.
animation to like fucking Beastie Boys and
Yeah.
all these other like great, like I said, grungy bands. But that's what it felt like. And then you watch Robot Jones, you're like, I've already said it's so different than anything else that was on at that time, but it was just like it had like this garage punk metal band vibe to it with the
Oh,
art, the texture,
awesome.
like its
Thanks.
backgrounds were phenomenal. Yeah,
That's
man,
what we were going for.
you guys absolutely fucking crushed it is what I'm getting at. Like I said, I
Oh,
love this
thanks.
fucking cartoon, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was the thing because it was like it was. Luckily, I mean, Cartoon Network was an amazing place where they kind of didn't know what they were doing, which
Mhm.
was kind of awesome. And so, like in the spectrum of all the studios that were happening back in the day, if there's Disney on one end of the spectrum where it was like, okay,
Mhm.
it's very corporate and they're very clean and everything's going to be like scripts and we're really going to figure it out. And then Cartoon Network being like the other extreme where it was like, okay, we're doing all of our like we don't really have writers. We're all like storyboard artists and we're all like board driven stuff and we're not getting paid that much money and the executives don't really know what they're doing. And so like it was gave us this freedom to be like, we can fucking do whatever we want. And that's why you got all these different shows because they were
Mhm.
actually like they were really cool about not wanting a studio style. Like they didn't want it to, even though like I think that like I kind of freaked them out because Robot was so different. It was because I was like I was trying to push the boundaries as far as I could. Like it was
Mhm.
like I said, like I was so excited to be like now I get to like I have all these ideas of what I want to do and I could do it because now I'm the boss. Ha 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 ha. And
Yeah.
so it was, and there was like And by the time they realized, they were like, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing?" Because it was like I was trying to fuck up everything, and it was like because they would be like, when you're starting a show, like the studio heads and stuff, I'll have like here's how you do a production schedule, and here's how you do run a show, and all my things were so like messing with that schedule or messing with the way you did these things. They were just like, "You asshole!" They were so pissed because I was like everything I had to like do something different, and they were just like, "Greg, god damn it!" Like even like so much as like keeping it because so like I said, like Robot was the last show that was done traditionally with like cells and film.
Mhm.
But like but it was like on the cusp of like changing to like digital ink and paint, like when I was doing the show. And they were constantly trying to get me to change to go to digital ink and paint.
Mhm.
And because it was cheaper and it didn't been they could still like yeah, anyway, it was they would
Do
save
you
a
know
ton
how
of
much
money.
cheaper? Do you know how much cheaper? Did they ever
I
like? Do
don't
you
know.
ever
They
break
never.
down?
I, I do have the numbers, but I never saw the numbers of like what the difference was. I mean, I know how much it costs us to do it, and I
Mhm.
think that like even like weirdly, I think it was like they were still charging the same amount, but since they weren't buying the paints and the cells and stuff, they were like making more money or not.
Mm.
There was like this like budget line that was now like still in the budget, but they didn't. So that was like a like free money for them. So that's why
Gotcha.
they were like they kept on being like switch over, Greg. But the problem was because Robot was so scribbly, the early ink and paint they couldn't scan it in at a high enough resolution with the early
Mhm.
technology. So you would get this thing that's called a moire effect. And it's kind of like it would uh, create these like rainbows. It was like this weird, like flickering rainbow wherever there was
Mm.
like a lot of line scribbles. And so I would like look, I was like, I can't do it with digital ink and paint because the whole show would look like a strobing rainbow and it would be crazy. It would drive people bonkers. And so like slow, like in like weird little intervals throughout the production process, like the studio heads would be like, okay, Greg, we're gonna make you do the Pepsi challenge. And we're gonna do film a scene with digital ink and paint and with traditional. And you're gonna have to, we're not gonna tell you which one's which just to prove to you that the digital ink and paint is just as good. And every time they did the test, I was like, that's the fucking digital ink and paint. They're like, God, how do you guess every time? I'm like, because I can clearly see that it's so it was even so much like at one point, like Cartoon Network, like for like pretended like, oops, we forgot to buy the paints for Korea. So you have to go use
You're
digital ink
like,
and paint. And I'm like, no,
don't
go
worry,
buy the
guys.
paints.
I
Yeah.
got it right here.
Yeah, yeah. But it was like that kind of stuff. But it was like, and I was like, no, go buy that paints. And I was like 24-year-old kid going like, you fucking assholes, go. But they're like, Greg Miller, you're always causing so much trouble. And I'm like, no, I'm just a very passionate artist who knows what do you.
You were a rabble rouser back in the day, Greg.
I was causing too much trouble. They just wanted to make a quick, easy cartoon, and I was just making it way too difficult. But it
So
was fun.
not only did you break George of the Jungle, but you also broke Cartoon Network.
Oh no, Cartoon Network broke me, dude. I mean, we tried our best to break that building, but
Well, like I said, man, you guys broke the mold when Robot Jones hit, man. So, getting down to it with these three episodes. Which one you want to start
yeah.
with out of the
Oh,
three?
because what did I say? That was it like
It was
a,
politics. I got it right here. It was
politics?
politics, Electra Boogaloo, which was some of the best backgrounds I saw during that.
Oh yeah.
And then oh fuck, Groove
Oh, and
Sickle. God damn.
Groovesicle, yeah.
Yeah, I
Well, I
couldn't
mean,
couldn't even
okay,
hear it.
so Electric Boogaloo was our second short.
Mhm.
So the whole thing with Robot was like, so I got to make the very first one, which was that one where, Robot at the very end, he like prints out the little picture of Shannon. So
Mhm.
that was our first pilot we made, and that was a 7 minute. And then like while before they decided to go to series, they were like, hey, why don't you make a second pilot? But we're going to start doing, because originally, like Dexter's and stuff, like Cartoon Network used to do, we were all doing 7 minute cartoons. So
Mhm.
if you watch those old Dexters, it was 3 7 minutes for a 22-minute episode.
Yeah.
So during that time, Cartoon Network was like, hey, we're not going to do the 7 minutes anymore. We want to do 11-minute episodes. So before we move forward with making Robot an actual series, can you do an 11-minute pilot to prove that you can do that thing? So that's what the second one was. Yeah, Robo
Oh,
Jones 2 Electric Boogaloo was our second pilot. So it was before
really?
it got green. Yeah, so we were like, because I didn't know if you knew at that time. So it was like I did my pilot like Maxwell Adams, who I'm
Mhm.
super good. Like we went to school together. Like I was like helping him on his thing. Warburton was doing his thing. So we were all kind of like helping each other out and doing things. So while we were kind of like waiting around to see who was going to get greenlit, the Cartoon Network like coolly like threw me a bone. It was like, hey, do a second pilot to kind of guess to keep me around and um to try out to see if we could do a longer format. So that was, I like that one a lot because it was, it was our second chance, and we
Mhm.
kind of like had done a lot of our, like I said, like Mike and I were like trying to like crack the code, like how are we going to do this? How are we going to figure it out? And by the time Electric Boogaloo happened, we had kind of like figured out stuff, and we were
Mhm.
really kind of like we had it dialed in, and it was really fun. Like I don't know if you watch it, like that was so the first pilot and this one too. Like I actually got to do a lot of the key animation
Mhm.
layout on it, so I kind of at some point would love to do it, like go through and like say like who did what scene, because it was like
Yeah.
I did a scene and Mike did a scene, and like it's one of those things like if you watch like old Ren and Stimpy too, like you could see like they were doing animation layout for their guys too. And you can like watch it and like kind of if you know the guys, you can kind of tell like who did what
Mhm.
scene. Even like old Bugs Bunnies, you can if you get really nerdy, you can kind of say like, oh, that's a fucking Mike Maltese or whatever. So um
I haven't
but
reached that level yet. I hope I'm aspiring to be like, oh fuck, I see it now. I see the difference between Mike and Greg because I'm just blown. Like I just sit there and like, I sound like Chris Farley
yeah.
when he was on SNL. He's like, hey Paul, remember when you and those Beatles got together? He's like, yeah. He's like,
So
that
cool.
was really cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so cool. And so that's what I do. I just sit here and watch. I'm like, fuck, dude, that's so cool. It looks seamless to me, man. So I couldn't tell. You guys crushed. Like I said, you guys
That's
fucking crushed
awesome.
it.
But it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, so we were doing, and even like a lot of the backgrounds. So Dan Kroll
Hmm.
was doing our backgrounds for the at least for this. I think for the first season we had him for a while too before Gendy stole him for Samurai. But
Hmm.
but it was like, yeah, Electric Boogaloo was like we I kind of like I knew what I wanted to do with the character. Like you also can tell too, like between the first pilot and Electric Boogaloo, it was like I wasn't as afraid of like keeping Robot's head attached to his body.
Hmm.
So we kind of like my whole theory about that, like, oh, it's just like they could be two cubes that are just like
Hmm.
bouncing around. Like we don't have to like I was like, why was I so worried about like making sure that like, oh, it has to technically work if his head isn't attached to his body. How could he? I was like, oh no. So I like the floating head idea kind of worked. The Yogmans, that was the first time the Yogmans showed up, which was
Hmm.
really fun. That was another thing too, was like I didn't have any kids for the first pilot doing voices, and that was always the thing. I was like, I want real kids to do because I wanted, because it's just something like awesome about
Hmm.
like Peanuts and like Charlie Brown and stuff, and like having real kids. And so Robot Jones 2 was like that was like finally got because it was uh Mitch and QB in that one, and then the Yogmans, and did we have somebody else? But it was like it was great. I was like, oh good, I have the kids, and now the kids are talking with Robot, and
Hmm.
it was just awesome, and it was so much fun. That it was to see it all kind of like it's all coming together. This is like now, so when they did finally say like, okay, cool, you're going to go to series, it was like that second one had like really we had figured everything out. So when we went to series, we are like we know exactly how to do it like a larger scale. Like if we need to do this like every week, we're cranking these out. So it was cool. It was cool. Like I felt like I was like, I'm doing it. It's real. I can
I
make a
have
real
arrived.
cartoon. Yeah. The first one was kind of like, what am I doing? It was just kind of bonkers. And by this one, I'm like, oh no, now I can do it. All my theories are working, and it's I'm doing it. It's real.
Well, I can imagine too. It's like you do that first one, you're like, fuck, dude, I wish I could have that one back. There's so many interviews I do where I go like, man, I would have loved to have that interview now, Vice back then, because you got to see everything you might have changed. Like, fuck, why didn't I push that drawing just a little bit further? So I got to imagine when
Oh,
you're doing that second one, you're like, well, fuck, dude, I already did this one time. I got those butterflies out, those
yeah.
jitters out. Now I'm just gonna go straight for the juggler. I'm gonna kill this fucking thing. You know what I mean? So it was just, it's really cool. Now that you said that, I didn't realize because I just thought that the way they formatted it way back in the day was it was a part of that two-parter, not two-parter, excuse me,
Mhm.
but the what was it, 11 and 11,
Oh yeah.
with the
Mhm.
commercial in between. So I always thought that's the way it was, and I never realized. I'm like, dude, I got to have a feeling like I wonder what that two is about. And I'm glad you answered because that was gonna be one of my next questions was like, what was the Robot Jones two? I didn't understand that it was just Electric Boogaloo. Was it two and Boogaloo? They rhymed, but you're like, no, that was the second pilot.
That was
Dumb
the
dumb. That's
second
what that
pilot.
was.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing because it was like it was cool. Like and then this kind of like leads into the other episode if we want to talk about the Groovesicle one.
Hmm.
So it was
Yeah.
like when they were pairing the first pilot and second pilot up for to do the 22. It had it was a 7 minute and 11 minutes, so they had like 4 minutes to
Hmm.
fill. And so the original concept of the show, when I thought it was going to be 3 sevens, was that it was going to be two 7 minute episodes of Robot Jones, and then like an episode that was like a music video, and every episode, so the Groovesicle was gonna be like every episode I wanted to do like a new musical style in a new like art style that would like be influenced by that music. So that was, but the Cartoon was like, that's too crazy. We don't want that. But we have this 4 minutes to kill in this first episode, so we'll let you do one of those. So that's why the reason I got to do that, the news to Mr. Pendleton video, was because it was like this needed to fill 4 minutes. So I'm like, oh, I get to do my Groovesicle, because like the whole intro was like Robot and Socks sitting in Socks's bedroom and like watching old videotapes of like an old like 60s bands or whatever. Yeah. So, and that was gonna be like the lead in like every episode, like every one of those was gonna have like Robot and Socks like, you check this out, and then you would go into the new video. But it was like, that's the reason we got to do it, and it was cool. I think it was before we were recording. I really loved Groovesicle, and to try to get that idea of it being a different art style from the actual episode, I got a different artist to do the designs for that one, and it was this artist Paul Coker, who was a Mad Magazine artist who famously designed Frosty the Snowman for Rankin and Bass. He did a bunch of Rankin Bass stuff, but I somehow got roped him in, and he did all the designs for the thing, and it was awesome. And we got to do, and the crazy thing was like, we got to do the key animation for that one too. So a lot of the drawings were like, sometimes it's me trying to draw like Paul Coker, or Mike trying to draw like Paul Coker, but sometimes we just took his actual drawings that were like, he was like faxing us all those drawings, and we would just cut them out and like tape them to the animation paper and be like, there, it's done. He already drew it for us. So awesome. We don't have to like try to pretend to ape his style. Like, he already did it.
That's so cool. I know you told that story before, man, but it's just getting to meet somebody that inspired you, that, like I said, I've been watching your show since I was little, so I'm sure you read many of or saw many of his his illustrations, many of his pages through all, thumbing through Mad Magazine, so it's all, like I said, it's so cool when you get to meet your heroes.
Yeah. And he did not
With
disappoint. He was amazing. He
Yeah.
was like I told you, like he was like Santa Claus. He like
Mhm.
didn't ask for money up front. Like he like we, it was Cartoon Network, so we didn't have a ton of money to spend on this thing, but he did like above and beyond. He did so much art, and did like custom paintings for us and stuff that like we didn't even ask for. And then like by the time it was like over, like he had done all this art, and so like my line producer was like contacting him. She's like, all right, well, here's how much money we have to pay. He was like, that's cool, whatever you got. And I was like, oh, this guy's, and he was awesome. He was like, and like, sadly, I never got to meet him like face to face. It was always like
Oh.
over the phone, because he was in New Mexico. So it was always just like faxes back and forth or talking on the phone. And he was just such a kind, like, oh, hello, I'm this friendly old man. Because I think he was in his 70s at that point. Uh, uh, but it was just awesome, because he did not disappoint, because it was just like, he was so friendly. He just like killed it. He was like still at the top of his game, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And then like, actually, amazingly, as I had sent him a final copy of it when it was done, I'm like, oh, I hope you're happy with the final thing, because I never heard back. I was like, oh, I hope he wasn't like, oh, they fucked it up. But then they had done he did, there was like a thing he did in Mad Magazine that was called like Horrifying Cliches, was this like a running thing he did in Mad Magazines, and they had done a compilation of all of his things like in a book. And I saw it was coming on. I'm like, oh, cool. So I went and bought a copy myself. And I remember thumbing through it. I'm like, oh, it's really cool. But like in Mad Magazine, they were all black and white. But for this book, like somebody had colored them, and they just looked really like, the color was horrible. And I was like, oh man, they kind of ruined these drawings by coloring them. I'm like, oh, well, it's still cool to have a collection of them. And then like a week or two after I bought the book, like he had sent me a copy of the book, like signed in the
That's
front. And I was
so
like,
cool.
oh, it's so awesome. And then he were like, here's a copy. I thought you might like it. It's a new book that came out of my stuff. Oh, and P.S. I didn't do any of the color in this thing. And I was like, fucking Paul Coker, you're the best. It was just funny to like, I was like, oh, like he knew that the color was crap, and he was bummed too.
Oh, that's so cool, man. Did he get to share any cool stories with you, that or did you ask him anything? Because I gotta imagine, being a fan for so long, what's that one nerdy thing you asked him? Anything stick out?
I didn't really nerd out with him. It
No?
was weird. Like I kind of was like so in awe of him. I was just like almost like afraid to talk to him. Like when I was on the phone, I was just like, oh yeah, I could, like trying to
Tell me
like
your
ask.
secrets, Magic Man.
Yeah, it was just kind of, I was just like, I can't believe, like I was so shocked. Like I told you, like even like when I got so the whole thing was like, I told you, like I sent a letter to Mad Magazine, like the official like magazine company like
Mhm.
in New York City, and they said like we'll forward the stuff to him, so they wouldn't even like get me in contact with him, but they like send us a letter and we'll send the letter to him, and if he wants to help you out, he'll just write you stuff. So I was at Cartoon Network one day and I had almost forgotten that I had done it, but I got a letter in the mail and it was like in his handwriting, and he did all that handwriting for all those Rankin Bass cartoons. So it looked like it was like a letter from Santa Claus. And I was like, holy shit, it's from him. And it was like all written like in perfectly little like Rankin Bass, like, dear Greg, thank you for asking me. And I was like, oh my God.
You have it
And
framed?
I do. I
Oh,
mean, I
that'd be
think it's, I don't have that one. I mean, I have that one framed like downstairs, but like,
uh,
here's like, I think I showed you, like, I'll show it now.
yeah.
If there's podcast, like, so like he sent, I think I told you, like, he would do all these is like on regular like oh this 11 by 7, I mean 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. Like he would just do like all these drawings and fax all these drawings to us like every day. Like I would get like a stack of like 10 to 20 like fax drawings. Like, what do you think about this costume for this character? What do you think about this design? And so, and I was always like, these are amazing. And it was so cool to see them. And then I told you, like, at the end of the thing, like he sent all the originals to me. So like I have a
That's
few of
so
them
cool.
framed, and it's so crazy because it's like there's not a mistake. Like all this stuff is like crazy. Like there's not one mistake on this whole page. He just went do 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 because like, and he was never like he's not tracing. Every once in a while, like you'll see like there'll be like a little piece of like a whiteout, like a little blob, like oh I made an extra little line, but it's just like he just sat down and went I'm gonna do this. But it's just like if you look at this, like this is also like huge inspiration of mine. Like I just love like how he's doing like scribbling
The
in for like
turnarounds.
textures and stuff, and it's so just the way like he was like using line and art and scribbles. And because that was another thing we had to figure out for like Robot 2. I don't know if you like noticed, like we didn't do a lot of like black painted in stuff on the cells.
Mhm.
It was always scribbled in black so it would all kind of fill in. And
Yeah.
that was something else too we had to kind of figure out, like, oh, we would scribble in but we had to like back paint it white or whatever the background color is so that it was like
Like
so
pop.
that so you wouldn't have this like you wouldn't see like ghosty images behind it. It would be like still a solid thing.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Ah,
so many crazy. Yeah, I was like, yeah, so I nerd out about it, but I was it was so fun to do that show, and it was so fun to like have all these theories and trying things out and just like living it, and like for like a few years of just like I'm doing my dream, and it was so fun, and it was just awesome to be with all my friends, and we were all just like hanging out and making cartoons, and yeah, it was so awesome to do it.
so when you think about that time, in particular, working on that show for those
Mhm.
2 seasons, man, what is there a thought, a memory, an interaction you might have had with somebody that comes to what, like I said, whenever you think of Robot Jones, excuse me, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Um, God, it's a weird flood. Yeah, it was just at a super magical time. It was just like because it was we were all, I mean, Mike and I were in our early 20s. All the like I got to like work with like it was the kind of thing too, like it was to have my own show, to be like with like Gendy and Craig and all these really great and like Rudish and all these guys that were like these super heavy hitters, like super awesome artists and super great guys. And to finally to be like, oh, now's my chance. Now I get to like be to show that I can do it too. Because I was always like, it's weird. Like I was always a lot, I mean, a little bit younger than all those guys. So I was always kind of thought of as like the kid, like, ah,
Mhm.
intern Greg. So it was like finally intern Greg makes good. So it's finally like I did it. I've sold a show. So it was kind of cool to like have all these guys that I had respected. And now they were like super like, oh wow, you get to do your show. And they were all really into it. It was cool to like have that respect, finally
Of
like
your
or like earn
peers.
the respect of all those guys. And it was really
Yeah.
cool. So I mean, I just like I'm trying to think, you know what? I it was just because I was just that was my life. It was so intense that it was just like those years were like, yeah, it was just like super robot. I like lived and eat and breathe Robot Jones. It was all I did. Because like I told you, yeah, because I was doing the music, I was like going over all the boards, I was like living at the studio. Like I would like still do the kind of trick of like I'm not a huge morning guy. So I would like probably like I'd show up at like maybe like 11. But I remember when I was like in like heavy production, they were like, Greg, you can't show up at 11. You have to fucking do some because there's
10:30.
people,
10:30,
yeah.
Greg.
So like 10:30. So it's like show up. I do like all my meetings and stuff like in the morning and then like get all my stuff done and then like like 6 o'clock would come, and then it would be like I'd go run out, we'd go and get some food, but then we'd come back and like I'd work till like 4 in the morning, like every night, like because that's the reason why I was like I wasn't showing up at 9 too, because I was staying there because it was like a lot of times like you're running around, like I had to do meetings or I had to like approve stuff or I had to like and go into records or uh it- I had to do like administrative stuff and I couldn't like there wasn't time to just sit and draw, and I had like put myself out that I had to do a lot of the drawing myself. So like for me to do it, I was like, I need a few hours of just nobody bothering me. And the only way to do that was like after hours. So we would just sit there and we were there. Like we just like were there at night, like all the time. Like Mike and I like we're there. Well, other guys too, like Charlie Bean and like Paul stuff. Like it was great. Like we actually there was we really got into ping pong. That's one thing I loved about the time. Like, so there was a ping pong table on the roof, and we had like, it was, yeah, we had like 2 sessions. We would have like a 5 o'clock session, and then we would have like a late night session. And we got like super into ping pong, and it was crazy. Like, we got, like, we would like have like super tournaments. And like we even like with things that I think it was called round robin or something, like all of us would go up and like everyone would run around the table. And if you like messed up, you would get eliminated. So it'd be a bunch of like, 25-year-old guys going, like running around and like playing ping pong. But it was awesome because it would just be like, we could like do our stuff during the day. We would have our little ping pong session before dinner, and then we would go out for dinner and then come back. But it was like ping pong was like great because it was like everyone kind of like would come up and like talk about like if we weren't like talking about like what are we would like work out ideas and stuff. It was like a really great place to have us all just like hang out and like bounce ideas off of each other and kind of brainstorm about stuff. And it was like a cool thing to have. And it just was such a magical time to have us all like, yeah, just fucking hanging out and like doing it. Like we were all like, yeah, we're doing it. We're making cartoons. This is hilarious.
You were living your dream, man.
Yeah,
That's what
it
it
was
sounds
great.
like.
And that's why like it's cool to like talk to people like you who like were on the other side of it. Cause like we were just making it for us. Like
Mhm.
we were never like it was, I mean, sure, we wanted to make cartoons that people liked and we wanted to be successful. And like we all had to dream of like, oh, we want to make the next hit show. We want to make the SpongeBob. We want to do that. But
Mhm.
we were all just like we were such a family and that we were all kind of doing it for ourselves and kind of making ourselves laugh and doing it. So it was a great it's great to hear from other people that were like watching it,
Yeah.
going like, "Oh, there's this great energy to it," and like we really
Yeah.
made us feel good. I'm like, "Oh, good," because we were having that feeling when we were making it. Because it was always like I'd worked at like studios where it was like a bummer to work on cartoons, and people
Mhm.
were like sad, and it was just really like a job. And I never got it, and and it really would always bum me out because I was always like such the wide-eyed, like I'm working in cartoons. This is like the best thing ever. I love it. And to go to a place where there was like, oh, well, it's just, whatever, just clock in and clock out. And you could see it in the work.
Oh,
You
we could
could
see
like
it as
watch.
fans. We
Yeah,
saw
you
it as
could totally,
fans.
yeah, you just were like, oh, okay. It felt like a job or like it comes through as a job. And it was always kind of a
Mhm.
bummer. But like Cartoon Network was never a job. It was even later on, like when I came back, because it was like after Robot ended, like I came back and was working on, I don't know if there's that show, The Problem Solvers. I
Mhm.
got to like produce that, which was awesome. Like I was kind of like, I came back, I was helping Pete Browngart do, before he did Uncle Grandpa, he did this cartoon, Secret Mountain Fort Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I was helping him out on that. And then like while I was doing that, Brian Miller, the guy that was in charge of Cartoon Network, was like, "Hey Greg, there's this show that was an Adult Swim show, but I think we're gonna make it a kid version, and it might be something you're into." And it wasn't like my style or anything, but he kind of like asked me to jump into it. But it was like cool to be involved in. But it was just like still like we were all still kind of there. Like Gendy was there and Craig was there, and we were all still kind of making it. And it was because it was right after the Cartoon Institute? Was that what
Mhm.
it was? We had come back and we were doing that. Like I had pitched a show for that, and I was supposed to make another pilot. It was a show called The Brand New Super Crazies. And I was just about to ship it to Korea to get animated, and they cut the order. It was supposed to be like we were supposed to do like 40 or like I think like 40 shorts were supposed to be made. And they canceled, they cut the order in half to like 13 or something. And so I just missed it. And I was like, oh fuck no.
Did
So
is that out anywhere? Can people watch that or do they own that?
no, I'll post it somewhere. But it was like, yeah, there's an animatic. There was like a whole, like I had the whole, like it was ready to go. Like it was literally
Yeah.
like I was about to send it to Korea to get animated, and it just got killed. And it never, yeah. But it was crazy
Sons
too,
of
because
bitches.
and it won't be, and it was like, because it was weird. Like I don't know if you know about Cartoon Institute, like like regular show and
Mhm.
Uncle Grandpa all came from Cartoon Institute. and it was like there was a mandate from Cartoon Network at that time. It was like they were like, okay, we're gonna be like the Fox of the animation world. Like we're gonna do like the like raunchy animation. We're gonna do like
Yeah.
push the boundaries. So that was kind of what they wanted. And so a lot of stuff like Uncle Grandpa and stuff was like, we were like things we couldn't get away with
Hmm.
earlier in Cartoon Network, like we could now do on regular show and Uncle Grandpa. And so like, yeah, Brand New Super Crazies was like, it was pretty, yeah. I had some really like racy jokes
Yeah.
that I was like, you went raciness, so I kind of really went for it. And so maybe it's kind of good it didn't get made. But it was like, well, like with Uncle Grandpa, like when he did like Secret Mountain Fort Awesome was like, for some reason, I still don't know why Cartoon Network said like, hey, Pete, Uncle Grandpa was great, but we don't want to make Uncle Grandpa, pitch us another show. So
Hmm.
Secret Mountain Fort Awesome was originally called Toilet Monsters. And so it was going to be about a bunch of monsters that just like lived in the toilet and were like looked like poop and they were gross. And well, because like, even like the show ended up, there was a character called the Fart, and he was just a
Uh,
bunch of butts and he was farting all the time. So that was like that era of like, well, what can we do? Like, how like stupid can we be? That we weren't doing like X-rated cartoons, but we were doing stuff that you definitely couldn't get away with back at old Cartoon Network.
I don't know. You look like the type of guy that would draw wieners and boobs on somebody's character design sheets overnight.
Yeah. I told you I'm horrible at drawing wieners. That's the only thing going. If I had that ability, I just
Well,
they
I can just imagine Chris looks up. He's like, "That was Greg, and that one was
yeah.
Andy."
Yeah. Oh no, we all know each other's drawings. Like, and it
Yeah.
didn't stop everyone. Like, it's amazing. Like, I've got like a box of like through the years, like I'll never get rid of it. It's like people drawing caricatures of you is like
Who
amazing. Like
drew the
I've got this
worst? Who drew the one
Andy.
that cut
Andy
the
was
deepest?
Andy was pretty bad. Like Andy would do like mean jokes. Like he would do ones you're like, oh, and he would like piss people off. Like Andy was good. Paul Rudish was amazing. Like
Yeah.
Paul could like get you because Paul's another one of those guys that like can just like draw without having to like rough it out. He just goes, I'm perfectly drawing you. He actually did like a really cool drawing of like me and Stern and do you know Charlie Bean? Have you talked to
I've
him?
heard the I have not, man. I've heard the name and I've seen him on a
He's one of
lot of
those.
things.
Yeah, he's like big movie guy now. I think he just did.
Yeah.
He did like Ninjago, and I think he did like that Lady and the Tramp live action thing for Disney. He's kind
Hmm.
of like, but he yeah, he was around. He's one of these. But it was like me and him and like Aaron Springer. Do you know
Hmm.
Aaron Springer? Yeah.
He wrote
So it's
he
like,
wrote one of my favorite Samurai Jack, Chicken Jack, one of my favorite
oh
episodes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Springer is a fucking nut, dude. But it was like, yeah, I just yeah, I just all those drawings, like all
Mhm.
this, yeah, there was just some, yeah. Andy's were always like kind of like it's like, oh, you know who else was kind of bad about it? I think you had him on. Mitch Shower from Angry
Yes.
Beavers. He would
Yeah.
draw like the meanest fucking
Yeah.
caricatures of me, and he was another guy too. Like he's an amazing draftsman, but he would
Yes.
draw. Like I think there's a picture he drew of me. It was like I looked like Barney Rubble, but I had like like no pants on because I was like, because he was like Flintstones. So I was like, it was like me as Barney Rubble with no pants on, and I had like this like little cartoon penis, and I was like, "Fuck you."
Was his wieners good? Did he draw good wieners?
Oh yeah, he was
Yeah.
good. Well, he's almost like a Mad Magazine guy. Like his stuff, if you see his drawings of his,
Hmm.
because I've actually got like some of the original, like I stole it from the trash can, like some of the original like Angry Beavers like
Hmm.
development art, and he's crazy. Like he's
Yeah.
because I try to remember like because I was a character designer on Angry Beavers, so he was every once in a while he would do like these little like parts in Angry Beavers where it looked like soap operas or it'd be like realistic looking people.
Yeah.
And he would draw, but like, but he that was him drawing that stuff, and he was insane. Like he was, I learned so much working with him, like about design and stuff, because he was a beast. But he was also mean. He was like a mean caricature guy. And he would just sit in his office and like smoking cigarettes and be like, and just
I'm gonna
like, here,
get
Greg,
this
here's a
fucker
drawing of
today.
you. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you fucking asshole.
So
But
who did you get back? Who did you draw the meanest picture of? Anything
I
stick
tried
out?
drawing one of Mitch just to try to get
Yeah.
him back. Like, I'll draw you because like Mitch at the time like had long hair and it was kind of a mullet, and he would
Uh-huh.
wear these really tight acid wash jeans, and he has kind of a small torso and really long legs. So I drew some picture of like him with his like mullet hairdo and like his like long skinny legs, and was like, here, I'm drawing a picture of you, Mitch. And then I think that's what he was like, oh, okay. And then like drew another one of me, and I'm like,
Watch this.
yeah, like, oh, okay. Gauntlet thrown
He gave you
challenges.
your he gave you your electric boogaloo, man. He gave you your second pilot for that
Yeah,
picture.
right. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, this is gonna get him.
Yeah, he fucking God, he was great. He was a crazy dude to work for.
Yeah, I had him on for the Angry Beavers little reunion. I had him, Richard Horvitz, and for the life of me, I apologize, I cannot remember the head writer's name. Um, fuck, it's gonna bother me for a little while.
Ooh, I forget who the writer was in that because there was what was Mike. What was his other? It was like a
Yes, it started with a K, I believe. It was definitely
ooh.
and like I said, we'll cut this part out and we'll pick it up when we actually get the guy's name. But it was a I think like an Eastern European name. Um,
Oh, I forget. I totally forget because I don't even
he
know. I
was the
don't think. I don't think he was like at the
oh
studio.
Keith Kaczorek yeah, because
Oh,
yeah, either
oh,
way,
yeah.
I
I don't think he was at the studio. It was
yeah,
weird because it was like yeah, it was like this weird time. So like Nickelodeon was like there was like the main Nickelodeon was games, I think at the time, and they had an office like in one place, and then like we were in this weird like satellite office like up down the road, and it was crazy. Like it was like there was a like a nurse's school downstairs, but for
mhm,
some reason I don't know why like we could smoke in the offices, and Mitch was like a huge smoker,
yeah,
and he was like, yeah, we're just smoking in the office, and I was like, what? And I was like kind of like 20 something like punk because I was also like so along with like me doing the Robo Jones music. So like when I first got into cartoons, like I was like I came out to LA. I'm like I'm either gonna be a cartoon guy or I'm gonna be a rock star. So I was in like a bunch of
yeah.
bands. So at that time, like I was like I was in a band. The Invisible Car, I think was that was the band at the time. But
That's a
like I
pretty
was
dope
all
name.
yeah, it was pretty good. It was like me and oh, so Mike Stern, like Mike and I were always in bands together.
Hmm.
So he also played on the Robot Jones stuff too. Like he played bass on that. But it was like I just remember like being like young, like failed rock star musician making cartoons, but like sitting at my desk like smoking, like this is so awesome. I'm so cool. Now I think about it, it's like gross. I can't believe I fucking was sat there and smoked at my desk. Like, gross. My poor office mate must have been like, you asshole, stop. But like Mitch was just, yeah, and it was like crazy. Like we were like, I was kind of young and for some reason, like I mixed a good martini. And so we would have like
Yeah,
martini Fridays and there was like everyone's just hanging out smoking and making martinis. And this is in the 90s. It wasn't like it was the 50s or anything. It was crazy. Like there was no reason for us to be. I think it was illegal to smoke in buildings, but for some reason, like Mitch was like, nope, we're gonna do it. And no one's gonna stop us. And no one did. And we just smoked in the office. It was crazy.
whenever I think of smoke, like obviously my mom smoked when I was younger. Like everybody smoked back in the day, it seems.
Yeah.
Um, I vividly remember like walking into a restaurant. We walked into an Outback Steakhouse. This is when I thought Outback Steakhouse was like the classiest
Yeah,
fucking thing in the world,
right.
right?
Yeah.
I go in
Ooh.
there and they give you that pumpernickel bread, that pumpernickel rye bread.
Uh-huh.
And then you could eat as much of it you want. This is back in the day where you didn't have to ask for bread. They just knew. They're like, that
Yeah.
fat fuck wants more bread, you know? Walking at Red Lobster, like, that bitch wants some more biscuits, you know what I mean? Of course, my body is built by biscuits and bread, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember going in there and then they distinctly asking you smoking or non-smoking. And I was like,
Oh
what the
yeah.
fuck? And I'd never really been out, at least at that time, I didn't remember. You know, I was very young,
Yeah.
5, 6 years old, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
And it was just like you could see the smoke, right? And it's not
Oh
like it would
yeah.
stay right there. It
Oh
would
yeah.
fucking filter over. It was almost as bad. Like they had ashtrays on there, and I think by the time, because the first flight I ever took, I don't know when they
Oh
outlawed
yeah.
smoking
Smoking on planes is the
on
worst.
airplanes, but I want to say I vaguely remember somebody sparking up, and this is before September 11th is my first flight, so I can't remember
Hmm.
when they made it illegal, but it's just like what fucking what sense is being made? The
Yeah.
smoke's just going to stay there. It fucking encircles the whole
Yeah.
restaurant.
I
That's all
know.
you taste. You're an
Yeah.
asshole. You're an asshole, Greg. You smoking
Yeah.
next to your friend.
I know. Well,
Bad
it
office
was
mate. Bad office mate.
yeah. It was more acceptable back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day too. I'm like, yeah, how crazy it was. There was like smoking or not. And it's not like it stopped. Like there was a wall. It was just
No.
like the table right there is the smoking section, and my table isn't. And they're like, fuck you.
Suck it, nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, God.
Oh, it's fan. What a time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
What a
The
time.
90s.
The 90s. Now when I want to
Smoking's
get that
still.
smell of the 90s, I go to Universal Studios here in Orlando, and I go on the ET ride. The ET ride still smells like the 90s.
Oh,
It's
really?
like starter jackets. It smells like the 90s.
Oh God.
Well, I found out that that smell, because so they still have the carpet. Have you ever gotten the chance to come out to Orlando and go to Universal Studios?
No. I mean, I've been to Orlando, but I've never been to the Universal Studios out there.
You got to go,
What?
and you got to go while ET's still there. You can
Oh,
YouTube it and look at the ride. The ride's
uh-huh.
very old school. It's cool. I go to it every time because
Uh-huh.
I was here when Jaws was still here. I was here when Back to the Future was here. Jaws is no longer
Oh,
here.
rad.
Back to the Future's turned into a Simpsons ride. It sucks, man.
Oh,
The ride doesn't suck. The whole place is fun. It's just like Back to the Future, in my opinion, greatest trilogy of all time. One of
right.
my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
And I was very bummed to see
With
it
you.
go. I love The Simpsons, but I want Back to the Future back.
Yeah.
Um, so anytime I go to Universal now, I'm always making that's the first ride I do is I do ET and then I do the Men in Black ride because I know eventually those rides are going to phase out.
Hmm.
So when you walk in there and my buddy was like, "You want to know why it smells like the 90s?" I was like, "Please tell me your secrets." He was a third shift technician on the rides at Universal, and he was like, "Dude, every night we have to go in there because the ride opens up. You're going through the movie, so you're trying to get ET, you get lost in the woods, you pick him up, you do the fly thing, but you go to ET's home planet. And when you're doing it, you're on the bicycle that you're on when
Oh,
ET's
rad.
making you fly, right?
Uh-huh.
So you go through this interdimensional thing. It's like this little portal type of thing. And this is like 90s, 80s, 90s tech. So
Uh-huh.
it's not great.
Right.
So you got this just blast of steam, right? And
Oh, right.
Florida's humid as shit already. So it's
Yeah.
everything's soaking wet. So they have to, he's like, dude, every night we have to go in there. I really, I'm, I don't sue me, Universal Studios, because like I said, he no longer works there. He no longer works there. So this is
What's this guy's name
allegedly,
again?
it rhymes with Ron. Um, but he told me they would go in there every night and they would have to like spray bleach for mold, right? Because it was just all the steam because you just get hit with the steam and nothing but water. It's
yeah.
humid as fucking Florida. So he was like, the smell you're getting is like us killing the mold that's been there since the place opened 30, 40 years ago.
So that's what the 90s smell like, I guess.
Mold, and sounds like
Mold.
starter jackets. Um, so
Sounds
as we
about right.
start to, oh, that sounds 100% right. As we start to wind down here, man, I didn't realize until just now. I looked up, it's like 11 o'clock. So I apologize for keeping you as long as I've kept you.
Oh, no.
Um, so I figure we can go through a couple more questions, and then you can get to enjoying your Friday evening.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Data log entry. This is the one I told you about that
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to bring up earlier. I loved this Dear Diary, but in the form of a robot. It was so fun. Where does this theory come from at the end of every episode?
It was from, did you ever watch Mork and Mindy? Do you know that
I
show?
Robin Williams' favorite actor of all time. It was I watched a little bit of it when I would go visit my grandparents.
Okay, so it was a ripoff of that. So at the end
Mm,
of every Mork and Minnie episode, Mork would check in with his home planet. It was like Mork calling Orson, "Come in, Orson."
yeah.
And I liked it because it would kind of like it's a recap of the episode, and he would kind of tell you the little like lesson he learned that day as he was talking to the leader of his planet. So I was like, oh, I kind of like that. It just with the tone of robot and stuff like being kind of like a Schoolhouse Rock. I just like that 70s feel of like, oh, we're kind of like wrapping it up the little story, a little kind of like giving it a little bow at the end. I just
Yeah.
I just thought it was something that would a good like formulaic thing, because that was another thing too. Like I really kind of wanted to figure out, like I had this like I like the idea of like a formulaic episode. Like when you watch an episode, like, oh, there's this happens in every episode. Like I kind of like
Mhm.
that stuff. And I know that like Cartoon Network was kind of bummed about that kind of thing, but I like the idea of like, oh no, you get your data log entry, you get it, like it wraps it up. Or like, or when Robot would get his whatever he was like studying that day, there would be another thing like go into his brain and you would kind of get like whatever lesson he was learning. So I kind of like the structure of that because it kind of helped like with the stories and it gave us something, but it was like a nice little like storybook ending to every episode, and I kind of was thought it was something neat and unique.
Yeah, I liked it,
Fun.
and it was just it more so now than it did when I was a kid. It like bridged that gap between, you know, you watch something and very rarely at that time. I mean, there was a lot of like kids-esque shows coming on, like you had Tom and Jerry Kids, Flintstone Kids, and stuff like that, a pup named
Hmm.
Scooby-Doo. But it's like nothing was really tackling a lot of the stuff that, most kids were going through. And it was cool seeing like a different species, right? So it was a robot, but they kind of do the
Mhm.
same thing humans do. So it humanized that character in a sense. It's like, oh fuck, we're not all that different. It's like, a robot might not be able to feel things organically like we can,
Mhm.
but they might be able to train themselves to at least manipulate themselves in a sense of like, I might be able to feel like this. I see humans doing this, so there must be some kind of necessity. So it would like sharpen that pot you had mentioned Terminator, but coming out like Skynet. So like maybe they would soften up and they wouldn't treat us like Skynet. We wouldn't be in a war with these robots if Robot Jones came to actually take over the planet. But I just like I said, I thought it was a very human quality to impart on a character that wasn't human at all. I thought it was very poignant, very smart, and very fun seeing that at the end of every episode.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, like the big thing with Robot, so like when I was coming up with Robot, or at least coming up with a lot of the stories and the concept or like the tone of the show, I was watching a lot of like John Hughes films,
Hmm. Yeah,
like 16 Candles and like Breakfast Club, and like because I love all those, and I really love those because they just they were really good stories, and they really felt like they were good kids stories, and they were
hmm
really I kind of really wanted to capture that element and like tell those kind of stories, and like that's why I was like, okay, if it's going to be in junior high, like I want it to be like real stuff he's experiencing. Because one of the things, oh yeah, I guess this is a good place to talk about it. So Robot also kind of came from my childhood. So when
hmm
I was a kid, I moved from Virginia Beach to Richmond halfway through sixth grade. And in Virginia Beach, sixth grade was like the top of elementary school. So it was like, yeah, this is our last year. Elementary, we're the kings of the school. And then over Christmas break, we moved to Richmond, which sixth grade in Richmond was the first year of middle school.
hmm
So I went from like, yay, yeah, elementary school, we're super cool, to like now I'm like at school and like people are making out. Like my mom still dressed me like I was still like elementary school mind. And meanwhile, like now I'm like, oh shit, there's lockers. I have to go to different classes. There's like bells and like there's like people making out. There's like kids smoking. So it was
Fish out of
like
water.
yeah, so it was totally like it was such a crazy like I had to like oh shit I have to learn all this stuff so quick, and it was just such a like a shock for me, and it was just like and then like growing up and like watching those like 16 Candles in those movies, I'm like yeah that was like I lived that like like having to go through those things was like really cool. So like that's where I pulled a lot of my all the Robot Jones stories from, and that was because like me like I had to learn like I was like oh my god I'm like in this school kids already kind of like had the first half of the year to kind of like figure it out, and like I don't know, so I thought like it was cool like oh robots like he doesn't know what it's like to be a human, so he's got to play catch up, and so he's like seeing all this crazy stuff. So that's why I kind of like wanted to push some more like crazier episodes where it was like taking a shower in gym, or like what am I, a boy or a girl, which is
Hmm.
kind of crazy. Like now like I kind of like I stayed away from social media a lot for a long time just because I was like, yeah, it's just me. Nobody wants to fucking hear about me and stuff. But then like I went out with Warburton and Maxwell Adams, and they were like, dude, 'cause one of them was like they because they're pretty active on the socials, but they were I think they posted something about us going out and having drinks, and they were like, dude, get on the socials, like say something. And I'm like, what? Because like, look, all these people are like, oh, Greg Miller's not dead. We thought he was dead. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not dead. I'm just not. I just never
I
thought
don't want
anyone
to
wanted
fucking
to.
talk.
Well, I just didn't think anyone cared. And they're like, because I don't really like go and like search myself, but then every once in a while I'm like, oh, this actually amazingly there are people that are like fans of the show that like are still
Hmm.
doing drawings, and like there's even like talking about Skynet or something. I guess there's like a whole like fan fiction about like robot growing up and like taking over the world, and like there's like this whole like subset of people like drawing adult Robot Jones and like his kids, and like Socks is like part of his army and stuff, and it's I was like whoa, people are really getting into it. But then like stuff with like the gender episode, like I think it was like during like Pride Month, like somebody had posted something, and then I had just started a Twitter account, so I like had like posted it too. But like yeah, like hundreds of thousands of people were like Robot Jones is like the trans rights, and I'm like yeah cool, I'm glad that like and like people were like reaching out and saying like yeah like this really like kind of helped me out with like figuring out like if I was a boy or a girl and what was up, and I'm like wow that's cool. I was just like it was cool to be able to like touch on some more like yeah like subjects that weren't being talked about in
Hmm.
cartoons, but I think like we're it was fun to do with a robot. Like I think that's why we got away with it, is because it was a robot that was doing this stuff. Like I mean, like having a kid like having to take his clothes off and take a shower. Like there's no way like they would let any other cartoon do that. But
Hmm.
I was like, I'm kind of see if I can get away with it, and just
And it was that was what's so cool about cartoons, especially during Cartoon Network. And the other one that I draw the correlation to is Hey Arnold. Like I learned like so many ways to be conflict resolution is such a huge thing, especially when you're a kid. And
Uh-huh.
then you never want to be that kid that's like the awkward kid. You know, like, oh fuck, I said that. You know, I still
Right.
think about some of those things I said in sixth grade. Like, fuck, dude, why did I think that was cool? Like,
Yeah, right.
like, it just keeps me up at night. You know, and seeing like an alternate reality, like it's a cartoon, them
Hmm.
working through something like a divorce or, you know, what you were talking about, or anything else that like everybody goes through on like
Hmm.
a day-to-day basis at the very least. You know, getting bullied at school, liking somebody that doesn't like you back. You know, I wonder
Hmm.
if I can try out for the sports team and make it. So seeing all these things and then seeing it play out on the screen, like, well, that didn't work for Robot over here. So I'm going to do the complete opposite, even though he's not real and I'm real.
Yeah,
You gotta,
right.
you know, so you saw, like I said, you got to see it fleshed out and you go, I can't go down that road because that's kind of what happened. So
Yeah,
you
that's
guys would
cool.
help us, like I said, develop conflict resolution. You would guys would help like raise us like, oh, it's kind of shitty when you have somebody like picking on you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I got to be a good dude, you know? So it was cool learning these life lessons through a cartoon, especially at such a
Yeah.
young age, because like I said, I feel like it informed so many of us out there.
That's crazy. I mean, it's so weird. It's great to like get to talk with you and like see it
Mhm.
because it's like, yeah, we were just in such a bubble. We didn't know. Because I was just talking about this with, yeah, with like Warbert and stuff. Is like back in the day, there wasn't so much like interaction between like artists and like the public with like now with like, with like this, with like blogs and with like podcasts and stuff. And like there was like, I mean, there was a blog. There was like, it was called Toon Boom, I think is what it was. No, no,
Mhm.
Toon, what was it? It wasn't Toon Boom because that's the thing, but it was something, and they were horrible. There was like one thing, but they were all trolls, and every cartoon that came out, they all hated it, and that was like our only like connection to like the public. And I'm like, oh no, like everyone, because and since like Robot wasn't Powerpuff Girls, like everyone was like, this animation style is gross and looks like it's unfinished, and I was like, oh no, everyone hates my cartoon. So that
Fuck
was like
those
my only.
guys.
I know, but that was like for years. I'm like, oh fuck, maybe I did fail. Maybe I didn't do the. I thought I was doing something cool, but then it was like when people started getting a little bit more like when there was like more like social media like stuff popping up. It was cool to see people like deviant art's amazing. Like every once in a while I'll go in there and like there's like tons of people still doing
Mhm.
robot drawings today, and I'm like that's amazing. It's cool to see that it's still influencing people and getting people to draw and like people are really connected with it, and it's really fun and really humbling to know the amount of people that I had some influence over their childhood or their lives, and it's that somehow like we have that connection, and it's cool. It's a really cool feeling. It's cool just to be like, yeah, to like, because I don't, I mean, it's cool like you reached out to me and like wanted to talk to me, which is like
Yeah.
bonkers to me because I'm just like, I'm just Greg. Like I didn't fucking like whatever. I just make cartoons. But like it's weird. I'm like, oh no, people know who I am, who I don't know. So it's weird like being that kind of person where like, oh, there's people out there that know me or think they know me that I don't know. And I have this weird, so it's weird. It's weird and honoring and very, it's a crazy thing, but I don't know. I'm so happy I got to do it. And I'm still getting to do it now. It's crazy.
Like I said,
Yeah.
it's always wild when I can reach out to one of you guys. You guys like, I'll come on and talk to you, man, because it's like I said, you guys go and create stuff, and you said it yourself at the beginning. You guys were just creating stuff to make each other laugh. You guys were
Yeah.
always one upping it. You know, you didn't know who was going to watch it, or if anybody. You wanted people to watch it, but you didn't know if it would be watched. And to know that
Yeah.
this went out there, and even today, 22 years later, right? I think it ended in
Yeah.
what 2002, 2000 to
2000,
2002, 2004.
2004, I think is when it
Okay.
was. Yeah.
20 fucking years though, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's that's
Yeah.
20 years is a long time to be doing anything, but to
Yeah.
be still relevant 20 years later with anything you've done with the cycle of just media that we're getting now, it's like it seems like every day there's two new shows come out. House of
Hmm.
Dragons started, so The Boys has just come and gone, and I feel like it came out 6 months ago.
I know.
It came out earlier in the year. It felt like 3 years ago it came out. You know what I mean? So it's just like
Yeah.
it's so quick, but to have an everlasting, just a vibe or opinion or just can't think of the fucking word I'm
Mhm.
looking for. This whole soliloquy was going to be great. You know what I mean?
I know
But
you
now
were
I fucked it
you're
up.
on the path. It was going so well.
The weed was starting to temper back down, so I think
Yeah.
I need to re up with the
I
dose.
know.
But it's just to be like I said, just to be relevant, just to be known, just like I said, to have that stuff out there that's inspired people, that's going to continue to inspire people. I mean, when we're long and gone, Robot
Hmm.
Jones is still going to be around.
I
It's
know, which is
fucking wild
crazy.
to think about it, ain't it?
Yeah, it's totally crazy. Yeah, it's humbling. But I
Well,
mean, it's great. It's that's why it's always like amazing to like get to. I mean, I love telling stories. I love being able to talk about it, and I never know like what I've said or what people know, and that's why a lot of times I'm like, oh, here's this crazy story about X, Y, and Z, because it was like, yeah, it was for me. It felt like, I mean, yeah, it's just it was like 20 years ago, but it doesn't feel like it was 20 years ago. And if I really think about it, I'm like, oh shit, I did like so many things between Robot Jones and now, but it
mhm.
was like it's still like it felt like it just happened. It was so weird last year, like to go to like them closing the studio because it was like so it was weird to go there because I hadn't been there in a while. Like I said, it
Mhm.
almost been like 10 years since I'd been in the building when they're closing it down. But it was just like, yeah, it's like they shouldn't be closing down the Cartoon Network building because they just opened it up. I'm like, oh, but I
Yeah,
guess it was like 24 years ago or 20 years ago. So I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's 20 years is a long time.
dude, it really is. And when you sit back and think about it, like, fuck it, it goes, you sit there and think like, oh, the 90s was 10 years ago. That's what it feels like, right?
Yeah,
Like, no, it was 30 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
Cartoon Network started in 92. So Cartoon
yeah,
Network had been out for 32 years already at this point. It's fucking wild
yeah.
when you think about it because I'll be 35 on Tuesday, right? So it's just like
Uh-huh.
all of these, like I don't feel 30, like I feel 35, right?
Right.
Physically,
Right.
mentally, most days, mentally, I
Yeah.
don't feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's just it's fucking wild to just like you blink and then
Yeah.
10 years have passed. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm 50, which is
You look
super.
fucking great for 50. I'm not hitting
Thanks,
on you or
dude.
anything, but you
Yeah.
look fucking
Well,
great for
well,
50.
yeah. We'll save that for the after.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's a crazy deal. It's like I don't feel 50. I don't think I sound 50. Like if I like when I think of a 50-year-old, like I still seem like I'm a fucking kid. And I still
Yeah.
think like a kid. And I still think like I'm still like, I mean, like, granted, like if I had met like Robot Jones Greg, like now I probably would have been like, dude, fucking chill. Because I was pretty intense. But I still feel the same, and it's crazy to think about. Like, yeah, like I remember like all those like doing that stuff, and I felt like it's crazy to like to see like everything, especially now. Like, yeah, like with Cartoon Network like closing, like it's gone. It's crazy that there is no more Cartoon Network building, and then even like the network itself is like it's not what it was anymore. And it's crazy to see because that was the thing. Like Cartoon Network was I was in college, so I was in college in '92 in Philadelphia, and I remember like there was someone had like at school they had put up on the bulletin board. It was like new channel Cartoon Network
Mhm.
forming, and it was like they're looking for submissions for. And I was like, oh, cool, because that was like getting into animation at the time. Like there was like Ren and Stimpy was the thing that was like kind of like was the rebirth for all of us because it
Mhm.
was like like growing up there was always like He-Man and GI Joe and like all like the toy cartoons that were on or
Yeah.
like Saturday morning cartoons were also great to watch, but there wasn't anything like there is today. But it was like great that like I got into it like so like Ren and Stimpy started when I was in high school and I was like, oh, this is great because I always really loved like the old Warner Brothers like like that was like Warner Brothers and like Jay Ward like my two like super favorites. Like I love those classics. So there wasn't anything like that, like in my mind, like that they weren't making those anymore. But I was always like, oh, I wish like if I could get into animation, like I'm gonna do that when I get in there. But then to have that starting like Ren and Stimpy was like, oh, they're doing it on Ren and Stimpy. Maybe this is a thing. And then it was, and I lucked out that like that's what like I got into the biz when it was like, all right, artists, you get to make your own cartoons. And I was like, what? This is what I always wanted. Because I always loved like watching like because that was the thing. Like it was like when we were doing it, when we were doing Dexter's and stuff, it was like when we would watch those old like behind the scenes of like Disney or Warner Brothers, where it was like we were like we pitched all our storyboards, like we were like pinning them up on the wall, and like you had to pitch it, and like we had to do you had to do the Dexter voice, and you had to do all the voices, and you're like, and then he does this, and oh, Dee Dee, and you had to pitch stick, and you were like, it was awesome. So it was like awesome to like live that, and then to be able to like continue that on to like doing my own show, and then yeah, and then now I'm 50, and I'm like, oh fuck, what happened? Fuck. But I still try to do that stuff. Like when I was at DreamWorks, like we were doing like the last show I worked on was this show called The Mighty Ones. I don't know if
Mhm.
you got to see it. It's on Hulu, but that was all board driven. And so we were doing it. But now it's like it's kind of sad now it's all digital pitches. So it's not as fun as like because like back in the day it was like, you didn't have to like draw as much, which was kind of the trick too. You just do one drawing and you'd be like, and then Dexter does this, and then you would just do it. You know, I'm like, I'm not going to draw Dexter doing that action. I'll just do it in front of everyone. And then like, oh shit. Like, I guess like when I'm like now pinning, like taping it down, I'm like, I guess I have to like tell something for the animators to do. But it was like, yeah. Now, like people are like, "Oh, I'm pitching, and I can like click back and forth between two drawings and actually make it animate." And I'm like, "Oh man, it's not as fun as like the pitch stick and like going like, yeah, DD."
Sweating your ass off thinking you're
Yeah,
crushing or killing it, you know what I mean?
yeah, right.
Uh so I usually end it with if you could go back in time and tell your
Uh-huh.
younger self anything, but you already answered that question,
Oh
so
shit!
pump the brakes, But I figure what we can do is we can pivot, man. I love good pitch stories, and I love when a pitch story doesn't go too well. Do you have
Mhm.
like one of each, like you knew you fucking crushed it on any of the shows you worked on? And then conversely, do you have one that you absolutely bombed and ate shit and you're like, fuck, I did not like that one at all.
Ah, fuck. I mean, I don't. I know I bombed, but I don't remember my bombs. My best, actually, one of my favorite pitch stories was so I was so yeah, I was at DreamWorks recently, and I was working on. They were doing the new. It was like a reboot of Sherman and Peabody,
I love
and
them.
I got
Yep.
asked to do somebody. One of the other guys, like anyway, they asked me to help out on some sequence for like their board because I was like, they they needed something for like I was like, oh, we need this whole like musical number, but it's got to be due by tomorrow. And I kind of was like, oh fuck, I don't know if I can do it. And I kind of like faked it, and I didn't finish it. And I went to the pitch, and it was to like all the like the DreamWorks execs. It was like a huge pitch, and so it got to my section, and I pitched blank panels digitally. I went, okay, like I had like the first like, okay, here's like Mr. Peabody, and he walks over, is like, okay, Sherman, and the song starts like this, and I'm like, now picture this, and I just fucking like sold it, and I just went and I clicked through blank panels, and I pitched it, and everyone went and loved it and went crazy, and to this day, like I like had like lunch with one of those executives like a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I still can't believe I like pitched you like a bunch of blank panels. And she was like, what? I'm like, don't you remember that time where I went through and I didn't do the drawings? And she's like, no. So I'm like, I fucking sold it so hard. Like they didn't realize that I didn't do drawings. I just went through like boop, 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 boop. So yeah, I'm very proud of that. But that was the thing too, like back in like the old like Dexter's pitch days, like you would like sometimes you just fuck off and you wouldn't finish a section, but you were like, okay, so here, this whole blank section here is going to be this amazing thing. And it was all just, so you had to learn the art of bullshit. It was so good to,
Oh, improvise and think on your feet, man. I
yeah,
would
it
imagine
was
it's
like,
pretty
yeah,
cool.
we were all just, and it was fun to be in a group of people that we all did it, and we all, because it's a special type of person to do that can do that, because not every storyboard artist can do it. Like sometimes you'll talk to like storyboard artists and they're like, oh no, I just draw very pretty drawings, and that's I get the script and that's what I do. And they're like, I've talked to them, they're like, oh, I would hate to have to write the jokes, and I'm like, no, I would hate to have to sit and like draw the pretty drawings. I want to write the jokes,
Yeah.
and like when it comes to the drawing part, I'm like, oh fuck, now I got to draw it. Oh, like it hurts. It hurts so much because it's not. Yeah, drawing
Well,
sometimes hurts. If you draw, it's not always fun. It's a good release, but sometimes you're like, it's not working the way I want it to work. But I have 800 more of these I got to do. It's
oh
the best and
man.
the worst.
Oh, I can imagine it. It's this I didn't know what to expect when you were like, yeah, come on and talk, because it's like usually within the first 5 minutes or so, I'm gonna be
Mhm.
real honest, with the first question I ask and how it goes and how it's answered, I can
Uh-huh.
generally tell like how an interview is gonna kind of go. And I thought my radar for interviews was like off the last couple ones I've did before I took that break. And it
Uh-huh.
was just like, fuck, dude, do I suck at this? And I was like, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, no, I don't think I suck at this. Maybe I should just approach this differently. But it's just like I didn't know what to expect when you said, yeah, I'll come on the show. And then within the first
Mhm.
like 30 seconds of talking, I'm like, oh, this one's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna get
Oh,
some
God.
really cool, I'm gonna
You
get some
never know.
really
I'm like,
cool
I'm a,
stories. No, actually, Greg, I'm going to take 7 points away from you because this interview sucked. You're at a -3 now, and
oh,
you
I was
lost.
doing so. I thought I was ahead. Oh man. I hate this
It's that
game. This game sucks. That's what sucks.
that host sucks too. That guy fucking blows.
Yeah.
It's that scene from Willy Wonka. You get nothing, sir.
Yeah.
Good
Nothing.
day.
Good days.
But no, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really enjoyed. I'm still really bummed that I can't go and buy the show because when I talk to you guys that I have on, It'll start with these 3 episodes, and with the exception of
Mhm.
like a couple shows like King of the Hill, I've always got on in the background. Regular show,
Right.
I've always got on in the background. I only get to see these because of time being so limited between work and then having
Right.
3 kids,
Yeah.
and then doing this podcast when everybody else is sleeping. To like watch anything that's like new or something, like it's mostly like revisits.
Hmm.
And I'll only watch like a few episodes that you guys are talking about. Most of the time I'm just shooting from memory.
Right.
And it's always a blast when I watch something that I haven't watched in a very long time. I've thought about like, fuck, dude, I see a commercial, I see a piece of artwork, or I see something just scrolling Instagram. Like, fuck, I need to put that on my list of shit to watch. And then by the time I look at that list, it's like I've got 42 things I have to watch, and
Right. Yeah.
I don't
And I'll
have
never
time
watch
for
any of them.
breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Right.
don't have time for breakfast. You know what I mean? Um, but watching these 3 episodes, I'm going to go back because you can literally type in Robot Jones and it comes up to full episodes for everything. And
Oh,
some of the
that's good.
channels now, you can still get some of the commercials or some of the bumpers that had
Oh,
been
that's
played.
rad.
So it's like this really cool time capsule. And what I'm going to make sure that I do after talking do
Ah, doo doo.
see what I did
He
there.
beat me to us like, ah, he said doo doo.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement at least 1 or 2 episodes, at the very least every couple of days, so I can watch everything that's on there because I forgot, like I didn't forget like how good the show was, but I forgot like nuance, like if nuancely was a word, like this the
Sounds
subtlety.
good.
I guess that's a better
Yes.
word, better word.
Subtlety. Yes.
Yeah, subtly. Everything's starting to slur now.
Yeah.
But the artwork is just so beautiful. The voice acting, like I'm still bummed that they made you change that voice. But I love the fact that this was traditionally animated because you can
Oh,
see, like you can feel like, oh fuck, God damn it, I got pen all over me. I got paint all over me. You
uh-huh.
felt the anguish, you felt that pain. And it's just, like I said,
Uh-huh.
it was just such a fun, it was a fun, I got to laugh at your pain, Greg. It was
Yeah,
just such a
right.
fun, it's just
But somebody
such a
did.
fun show. Such a fun show to watch, man. I had a blast rewatching this one. I can't wait
Oh, I'm
to go a
glad.
little bit further. Oh man, I'm glad
Yeah.
to.
Well, sweet. Well, thanks. I mean, yeah, thanks again for asking me to be on and talk and yammer on about the good old days.
Oh, I'm pretty sure this is gonna jog some memories loose, and we'll definitely have to do this again because I
Yeah.
wanna do a whole series. Like I've been doing these creator reunion shows that have been turning out really fun. We did
Hmm.
one with Craig and a whole bunch of the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, yeah.
We did one
Cool.
with Cow and Chick and David Feast and a whole bunch of
Oh, yeah.
people. And then I've got a Courage the Cowardly Dog that by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks since we've recorded it, but I've it's a big one, ladies and gentlemen. So I would love to
Oh,
do one for Robot Jones. Get a couple of the guys that you worked with, or a couple of the people you worked with, and then
that'd be rad.
we can do like a whole show dedicated to the entire series, man, with the
Oh,
creator
yeah,
and
that would be
a
great.
bunch of the people. Yeah, man. So we'll
Get some
definitely
other like
reach back
crazy,
out.
yeah, get some other like
Yeah.
stories about me that I won't tell. Like, oh, no.
Oh, like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you this at the beginning, before we hit record. Is there anything
Mm.
you're working on now that you want people to know about, whether it's a new book, new show, you got a blog coming out, anything else you want to push?
Wow, God. I mean, like personally, no. I mean, I've started. It's just a weird time in the industry now. I don't know if you
Oh yeah.
know. Yeah, so
Oh
it's really
yeah.
crazy. So I luckily have been like a couple of people have asked me to pitch some things because there's finally the people want new ideas again. So that's been kind of
Mhm.
good, but nothing like too solid. I mean, I've mostly just been working at for like SpongeBob stuff for Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I've been doing if you talk to Renzetti
Uh-huh.
and Alvarez, they'll laugh because like so now I'm Alvarez now. Like I'm doing like I've been doing a lot of timing sheets because they
Uh-huh.
still do timing sheets on the SpongeBob shows. And like Alvarez, I'm sure it's like laughing hysterically if he hears this because he's yeah. I'm sure him thinking me being doing his job is hilarious for him
Yeah.
because now it's yeah, I'm like, oh, it's the same kind of thing. It's like I'm sure like Alvarez was like in his like 40s, 50s, like back when I was in my 20s, because he's like that much older than me. But now I'm like, oh yeah, now I am that age. So now I am doing the Alvarez jobs. Like, but
You're a
yeah,
distinguished gentleman. Robert
I know.
Alvarez, man, that guy's a national treasure, dude. Like
Yeah,
anytime
man,
I've
that guy
gotten to
is
chat
around
with him.
forever. He's bonkers. Like he was like, yeah, he was just like because he was one of those dudes. Yeah, he was like one of like the leftover like dudes. Like when we were like all like young stupid kids running around. It was like Alvarez was like on that hallway going like you fucking kids, but was always like always super awesome. Was like always like it's one of the gang. It was like really cool and like really supportive and it was like really great to have him around. But it's weird to be him now.
Mhm.
It's weird. It's come full circle. But
Well, it's
yeah, that's
weird. it's weird looking at his resume because it's like you can't go. I couldn't go. I looked through everything before I had him on the first time, and I'm like, dude, how the fuck does this guy sleep? I was like, all of these shows, it was like most of them were going on at the same time. So he did a lot of Hanna-Barbera, a lot of Cartoon Network. He's doing some
Mhm.
freelancing at Dick. We're always back to Wieners here.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about yeah. He worked at Deke on some shows. It was just like looking at his resume, I'm like, dude, how the fuck did he have time to do anything else? Just the level and output he was doing from timing and directing and all the other jobs he was doing during his entire career. I'm just always amazed at what he did.
Yeah, he was just a machine. He just was, yeah,
Yeah.
he was very regimented. He was one of those guys, like, that was one thing he wasn't like us, like, where we were all like, yeah, we're out like partying and smoking weed and fucking running around and being, he was just like, no, I show up at 9, I leave at 5, and I'm out. And that's it. And like, he was like, but he was just like sitting like, just pounding through timing sheets like a machine. He was crazy. But yeah,
That's so cool. But
now it's,
maybe we'll
I
reach
try.
out to him. Maybe we'll reach
Yeah.
out to him and we can get some because like I said, we're gonna do we won't be able to do it with everybody from all the series that we were talking about, like Dexter and all of them.
Yeah.
But it's always fun to get these, like I said, these reunions going where once I get a couple of you guys that have worked together, that's when shit really starts hitting the fan in the best possible way.
Oh,
Just because it's like, oh,
yeah.
remember when you did this? Like, oh fuck, I wish you wouldn't have told that story. But so like I said, we'll for sure do one on Robot Jones.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Cool.
you so with that being said, man, this has been a blast. I hope you
Yeah.
had fun because I know
I
I did.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All
been
right,
way
cool.
fun.
Fucking crushed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Woohoo, you
You
did it.
actually, you actually won the game. You got a lot of points for saying you had a great time, Greg. I don't know how you came back from
Oh,
-3, but you fucking won. As soon as we hit end, though, I'm gonna scratch out you won. I'm gonna put I
oh,
won
you
because I always,
suck. Why?
I don't know.
Why? You're so mean to me.
I'm very competitive, man. But like I said,
All right, fine.
he's been Greg. I've been Julian. It's been the What's My Head podcast, and this has been another piece of your childhood. Good night.